to be. Hold on a second. Given what's been going on lately, that's probably to be expected. Want to say hello to absolutely. Oh, wait, no, now we've got two. All right. Just as I'm about, it's kind of weird how that happened. Just as I'm about to say, I want to say hello to absolutely nobody. People jump on. So, welcome to Red Pill Nation Hangout 463. It's just me and Roger tonight. So, Roger, introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. Sorry about that. I was muted. And, just say hi, and that's it.
Okay. Site news. I'm still waiting for Subscribestar to validate my account. When I did some digging around, I found out that Subscribestar, well, they seem to be a kind of a fly-by-night outfit. I still don't think my Subscribestar has been validated. So until further notice, I will have to use Patreon. If somebody has an alternative to Patreon, please let me know. I know there's something called Buy Me a Coffee or whatever, but yeah, I'm very, very hesitant about using Patreon. Although, again, right, we're just talking about this with YouTube. Patreon is kind of like backed off on the censorship a little bit. But still, right, it's not.
No, I can give you a suggestion. It's up to you if you want to do it, though.
All right, well, we can talk about it after the show. But anyway, that is it for site news. We're growing. I don't think I'm going to pass 1,000, just based upon how life is going for me lately. I don't think I'm going to pass 1,000 subs on the combined emote before the end of the year. It's unfortunate, but life goes on. For those of you who don't know, I am at, in order of size of number of followers, Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey, MGTOW TV, Brighteon, and YouTube. I am also at Minds, Gab, MeWe, Facebook, Getter, and TLB Talks. I'm also at a few other places, but I can't specifically remember where they all are. Just hold on a second. Let me just have a look here. I'm at a whole bunch of places. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm actually at Tumblr, believe it or not. I do have a Parler account that I never use. I'm also at Instagram. Oh, yeah, and by the way, I'm also at Kick and Twitch. I've actually gained, there is I do have a Kick and Twitch account. Believe it or not, I've actually gained a couple of subs on Kick, which is phenomenal. So, and welcome to the one Twitch person that has decided to join in. Let's see if there's anybody on Kick right now. And of course, the computer's taking its sweet ass time. There are 0 viewers on Kick right now. Okay, well, the topics for tonight are, and of course, all right. Hold on. All right, so the topics for tonight are: 1, British charges against Andrew Tate dropped. 2, YouTube settles lawsuit with Donald Trump. Canadian Online Censorship Bill, it's C-8, not C-11, by the way, is making its way through Parliament. Trump administration appears to be prepping for war as things heat up in 2 places. That would be the Ukraine and both Israel and Iran. Although apparently we will be covering this on the next on 464. There is a very slight possibility that 464 might not happen. Probably will, but it's like there's a possibility that it won't happen. Topic number 5, Netflix is facing a serious backlash over its kids shows. Topic number 6, Democrat-led government shutdown has resulted in unexpected consequences. boy, did it ever. Not what I don't think it was Democrats were expecting, the consequences that they were expected. And yet 462, which was the P. Diddy special, but yeah, we will cover the sentencing of P. Diddy again. Yeah. Going into this tonight, one of the things that keeps you growing regardless of circumstances, because Roger was mentioning this to me about how I just seem to get these shows out come hell or high water. I just went through an absolutely unbelievable grind over the past 3 days, and I'm still on doing the show tonight. I think, like I was just mentioning to Roger here, the only time I have knowingly decided to skip. And yeah, we are at 463. By the way, there's at least 50 MGTOW Master Series, plus all the independent content that I've got, and the Naroki 5 live stream. Between all of those shows, I probably am pushing somewhere between 550 and 600 shows in total. I make sure to get these out come hell or high water, but there is a possibility that I may have to, because of what's happened in the past few days, there's a possibility that I may have to pass on 464. Probably not, but just giving you a heads up. All right, so without any further ado, we are just going to get right into this, because among other things, I have a screaming ass headache tonight. Yeah, like I said, I have missed 2 shows in the whole time I've been here, and one of them was because I had COVID. And even then, the show happened. I just wasn't on it. So anyway, let's get into the first. Let's just get right into the first topic here. This guy, whenever I mention him, which I'm going to mention Andrew Tate. Like, Andrew Tate had been really kind of spot on with a lot of stuff in the past few months. Among the other things he talked about, and this is something that I think really does need to be brought to everybody's attention, is that his comments around Keir Starmer and the digital prison were pretty much spot on. I have posted it up. I did actually post up his video response to that on a previous RPN episode. Now, what was going on here? And with Andrew Tate was the fact that it was very, very clear that there was a third party involved in the Romanian arrest of Andrew Tate. The case initially looked like it was going to work against him. That was, of course, until Andrew Tate got a lawyer that actually had some experience dealing with this type of situation. And guys in the manosphere, because I know I got a lot of manosphere listeners here, if you're dealing with a divorce, if you're dealing with a false accusation, if you're dealing with a nasty divorce, or if you're dealing with an issue where you have a toxic female attempting to take advantage of you, legally or criminally, there are lawyers out there who now specialize in dealing with this particular type of issue, and you need to get a hold of one of those lawyers, which is exactly what Tate did. Once he got a hold of one of those lawyers, and I'm not going to go into all of the issues around it, because people got really, really pissed off when the charges against Tate were suspended and then they were dismissed out of hand, the first time around. But Great Britain, while he was still in prison, somehow managed to find a couple of women to launch first a lawsuit, and then the British government decided that they were going to try and extradite Andrew Tate back to Britain to face criminal charges. And surprise, 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 upon further review, and this is where we are right now, that particular case also has fallen through. The lawsuit won't work. The criminal charges definitely won't stick. And again, I don't know the particulars of it, but again, it looks very much like they did it for the optics and not for what was actually occurring. And hold on a second here. Yeah, I will. I am just, before Roger comments here, I'm just going to play a video from Tate here. It's about 6.5 minutes long. It explains his side of the situation. Again, I understand that Tate is a very loaded figure, and I know a lot of people like to take Tate out of context. And by the way, I am not saying this as a Tate super fan by any stretch of the imagination, but if you're involved in the manosphere, you kind of have to acknowledge Tate, even if you're MGTOW like I am, just because of his particular situation. But anyway, this is a 6.5 minute video where he explains the situation.
Case dismissed. Even better than a not guilty verdict, a judge has decided there's not enough evidence to even send this to trial. There's no evidence of crimes. None of this makes sense. They printed an indictment with thousands of pieces of paper, which doesn't mean anything. It doesn't add up to a crime. They falsified evidence. The whole thing is garbage. The case is now officially dismissed. But if there's no evidence to take me to trial, this begs a very pertinent question. There was never any evidence to put me in jail. There was never any evidence to raid my house 5 times. There was never any evidence to keep me travel banned for 3 years. There was never any evidence to stop me seeing my children. There was never any evidence to stop me seeing my mother when she had a heart attack. There was never any evidence to steal all of my cars and all of my money and all of my wealth. There was never any evidence for the media, which were very complicit, to try their very best to slander me, to bother my mother after she had an operation, trying to make her cry, to make my children sad, to make the women around me sad. This is not just about my brother and I. We're tough guys. Every single person who loves us has suffered, and there's never been any evidence in the first place, like we've been telling you for 3 solid years. We've been telling you this for 3 solid years. This is a bittersweet day. I'm happy because finally an honest judge did the right thing and threw this case out. I am happy because I got to enjoy this perilous path with the person I love the most on the planet, which is my brother Tristan Tate. He is the best brother on the planet. And when we shook hands, irregardless of the circumstance, even when we were sitting in a jail cell together, we only laughed and smiled. We are ready to die together. We have been since the moment we were born. And there's no better feeling on earth than knowing you have a brother who's ready to die beside you. We are the type of men who will charge at the gunfire after a quick nod of heads. We don't care. We were ready for 20 years in Rehovot. We knew this was a setup. We knew this was a Matrix attack. We didn't expect justice at any point during this, but we fought tooth and nail. My legal team and everyone around me said, Andrew, just be quiet. If you're quiet, you can make it go away. Don't make a big noise about it. Maybe we can do a deal behind the shadows. And I said, no. My father did not raise me to have the Tate name tarnished by liars and corrupt actors. I will fight tooth and nail from the absolute day I was first accused until the last day they throw me in jail, and from there, I will continue to fight. I'm an innocent man. I've done nothing wrong. I'm not going to be quiet. I'm not going to do a deal. I'm not going to lay down. I'm going to fight this absolutely tooth and nail. And everybody told me, you can't beat the system. If you make too big a deal of this, you are going to go to jail. And I said, I will go to jail for 20 years happily if everybody knows I am innocent. If everybody knows I've done nothing wrong, I'll suffer in jail. But I will not let people lie and slander the last name Tate when we've done nothing wrong. There is no such thing as light without dark. The light that radiates from the beautiful brotherhood I share with Tristan must be balanced. And the balance to that dark are nightmares, which I've suffered ever since I was put inside of that jail cell. I still wake up at night looking for cockroaches inside of my blankets. I still smell that jail. I didn't go to jail in England. I didn't go to jail in fucking America. I went to jail in Romania. I was thrown in an Eastern European prison. Do you have any idea the conditions in an Eastern European jail? And there was never any evidence for me to be there in the fucking first place. I think God is giving me these nightmares to ensure that my wounds stay fresh. Because it would be very easy for me now that the first case has been thrown out. The second case will follow quickly. Within a few weeks, we'll be back on private jets, back on our Bugattis, back on yachts, living a good life. We could just ignore all this, live and let live, make it all go away. No big deal, we were found innocent. But I still can't sleep. So why would God still be keeping me awake at night unless he wanted my wounds to still hurt? Unless he understands that innocent men being told they're innocent isn't justice. Justice is when liars. Justice is when corrupt actors. Justice is when complicit media outlets. Justice is when people who have tried their very best to put an innocent man in jail purely because they don't like what he says. Not because he's guilty, because they don't like what he says. They had no interest in the truth. They just wanted me to be guilty because they didn't like me. Justice is when they feel the full weight of the law. And perhaps he has enacted me, chosen me as his soldier because I am 38 years old. I have 35 more years to live. I have unlimited resource. I can't sleep. I'm petty. And I can ensure that everybody who has ever said my name in a negative light regrets the day they were chasing the attention and chasing the likes on Twitter, because it's not going to be worth it. I have done nothing wrong. Hundreds of millions of dollars of compensation are going to flow my way. And it's not about the money. It's about making people understand that just because you do not like somebody, just because you do not like the words they say, just because they said some stupid things on the internet 10 years ago, just because they offend you with their jokes, does not mean they should be locked up innocently. All people, including my enemies, deserve a fair trial and deserve freedom if they are innocent. But my enemies are not innocent. And my enemies are never going to apologize. Never going to apologize to my mother, never going to apologize to my children, never going to apologize to the people around me who have suffered even more than my brother and I. But they will pay. Because as I said after my first cancellation, it was a fair warning because I am a fair man. I do not hit people without telling them I will hit them first. My unmatched perspicacity, coupled with sheer indefatigability, makes me a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor. The counterattack has been long planned. It's quite interesting how much time you have to think and be creative inside of a Romanian dungeon. And now, finally, as the dominoes start to fall, as the house of cards of lies is collapsing in real time, the counterattack comes closer and closer to fruition. My brother and I have always been innocent. We were attacked because of our monumental fame and the work we were doing at the time to break the matrix. The reason Trump is in office, the reason everyone's now based in telling the truth, the reason the masculine youth are rejecting the programming, the reason all of these things are happening was by no small part down to my brother and I personally. It's not just us, but we were part of the entire culture war. They tried to get rid of us. They tried to make us suffer. And I promise you, now that the war has been won, and now that my final paperwork is being stamped before I am released, the people who have done this, who have tried to make us suffer injustice purely because we were trying to do the right thing, are going to pay the price.
So, yeah, you can clearly see that he is in trouble here. I'm just going to remove the banner here. Just a little bit pissed. And I think I would be a little bit pissed too. I mean, I'm going through some stuff right now myself, and it's like I have to resist the temptation at this point to seriously lash out. You know, and I've had this discussion with multiple people. It's like, well, Tate said this, Tate said that, Tate said that. And it's like, well, where did you hear that? Where did you see that? Did you actually go over and listen to him? Or were you just listening to an out of context clip? Right? And by the way, I am not saying this as a Tate fan. Right? Like, I have never been a Tate follower, and I've never been a Tate super fan, right? In fact, the only reason I even found out that Tate was in jail was because a bunch of feminists on Facebook came into came into a bunch of MGTOW groups. By the way, I also got to emphasize this when it comes to when it comes to MGTOW and Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is not a fan of MGTOW. Far from it, right? So it was like these people were coming in and they were gloating. It was like, you're a hero, blah, 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 blah. It's like, he's not our fucking hero, man. Like, Tate was never considered a hero in MGTOW, right? It's, like the people that brought up Tate, the reason why Tate was brought up is because Tate was dropped on my lap, right? It was only after Tate got dropped in my lap and I started looking at the evidence, it was like, okay, it looks like there's something going on here. And I get that Tate is like, there was just recently somebody on a kick stream, right? Who quoted Tate out of context. The lying about the manosphere will continue unabated until it reaches because for instance, as I'm talking about this, right, there is a series of memes. If you go to the Naroki 5 live stream, I have done 3 consecutive shows just on memes because I was so far behind on everything else. Like, I've had to get caught up, and I had to do 3 live streams just on the memes. And when I do want to talk about the memes, these are memes that other men have pulled off feminist sites and have shared at men's groups and red pill groups on Facebook, on Instagram, wherever else, right? And, like you're seeing a lot of doubling down and you're seeing a lot of desperation here. And I got to point out too, and again, I'm even less of a fan of Nick Fuentes than I am of Andrew Tate. But both of these guys have had some very valid points to raise over the past couple of months. Tate was talking about a digital prison here quite recently, and Nick Fuentes. And this has been pretty much my gut feeling around what happened because of the Charlie Kirk assassination. I, for one, am tired of justifying being in the manosphere to fucking feminists. I'm tired of having to deal with these stupid effing leftists that post up this stuff on X, on Facebook, whatever, and it's like, the good thing about X now is that when these idiots post this stuff up on X, it's like they don't, like, that platform no longer has their back. Facebook has backed off on it. YouTube has decided that they want to dig through the couch and go look for spare change. But the power of one here. Once one social media platform decided that it wasn't going to support this, the ability to control the narrative basically disappeared. And because the narrative disappeared, the other ones, the censorship simply could not continue elsewhere. And so what you're seeing now is that the whole narrative against Tate is disappearing because it's like the mainstream media can say stuff about him. You can even have leftist YouTubers and conservative tradcons say stuff about Tate as well. But again, right, like no matter what they say, the narrative just simply keeps falling apart. Now, does that necessarily mean that Tate is going to be alive in a year's time, or that Nick Fuentes, whom, by the way, again, I am not a fan of either of these two guys, right? But it's like, are these guys going to be alive a year from now? Both of those guys, along with Charlie Kirk, both of those guys have had people attempt to kill them in the last year, right? So this is not just a this is not just an isolated event. And with that, I'm going to turn it. Oh, like I said, right. Somebody in Britain really wanted Tate behind bars and was willing to bend the law to do it. So yeah, but again, right? Once he got the right lawyers and they knew how the system worked, it kind of fell apart. Well, it didn't kind of fall apart; it did fall apart. But it's probably not over, based upon what I saw with Charlie Kirk. Someone else is eventually going to get killed over this. I mean, Charlie Kirk was I won't say. This is going to sound really kind of morbid. To a strange degree, Charlie Kirk was almost like the sacrifice that our side had to make in order to wake people up. And it's probably going to take another killing like this in the manosphere for men to wake up. But anyway, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roger.
Yeah, with Tate, I don't really have much more to say about it, to be honest with you. I mean, the most I've heard from him was the stuff that you've said. I guess I really should have checked out more on him because of all the stuff you've said before, but I haven't. I know he was in Romania. Now, he was released from all charges in Romania, apparently, too, as well as the UK, I guess, because at least that's what the video seems to be saying. I don't know. It's like I said, it's a pretty that kind of situation is pretty weird because first of all, he is in Romania, and that's one of the weirdest countries when it comes to these kind of cases, especially when it comes to like women. I find it weird that he's being charged in Romania when Romania is probably the capital of freaking sex trafficking in the world. More women are abducted in that region than anywhere else in the world. That in itself is pretty strange. So I look at that, and then when it comes to like with him talking there, it just sounded like a really, really cool episode of WWE. You know what I mean? Like he sounded like he was up there freaking like Hulk Hogan or the Macho Man and shit like that. And when I hear people talk like that, usually bad shit happens afterwards. So I'm gonna keep my ears open and see what happens, because usually when people start spouting off like that, 6 months later something bad happens. So there could be a chance that you're right. He could end up getting shot or killed or something of that nature. So that's basically all I've got. I mean,
oh yeah, something bad is probably going to happen. It might not necessarily happen to Tate, but something bad is probably going to happen. There's going to be, it's getting harder and harder and harder to get at Tate, but that does not necessarily mean that there aren't other guys in the manosphere that aren't easier targets to get at. For instance, Rollo Tomasi, who's actually not that hardcore, I suppose. Like, he's not WWE like, say, Andrew Tate is. But I mean, like, Rollo Tomasi, for instance, has had someone go to where his daughter lives and start tromping around the property where his daughter lives and starts calling out his name. Unfortunately, they don't know, and I'm not going to give it out, but I know what Rollo Tomasi's real name is. He didn't know what Rollo's real name was, and his daughter called the cops, and the guy got arrested, right?
Mm-hmm.
guys with Fresh and Fit, when they have their show at the studio is under guard, because there's been a couple times where somebody has attempted to storm the studio. One time, oddly enough, when Tate was in town, tried to storm the studio with a gun, right? Andrew Wilson keeps. I mean, even me, right? Like, I mean, I'm not particularly big at this point, right? But I mean, I have to make sure that I cover my tracks. I mean, if finding my name is easy enough to do, finding out where I work, how I work, that sort of thing, that stuff's a little bit harder to do with me, right? Like, I don't show my face, right? I've been accused of being a coward for not showing my face, but it's sort of like, yeah, well, I don't have the financial resources right now. And I also live in Canada, so getting a gun for personal defense is a very complicated process up here, right? Mm-hmm. I don't have the ability to get a gun to defend myself, or even, in a lot of cases, even get a weapon, because pepper spray is also banned in Canada, right? So it's like, my ability to defend myself is kind of limited. And it's like, yeah, you know what? If somebody knew where I worked, I'm pretty sure if people knew where I worked or where I was living exactly, like, I have received death threats. Only a couple of them. But I mean, here's the thing, right? The first time I got a death threat over my content, I actually... Like, the first time you actually get a death threat over your own content, it's like, yeah, it's a little jarring. Like, it is very, very jarring, right? Because it's like, like, even if you're aware that it's a bluff, right? It's still like, like, you just get that chilled, like, fearful feeling, right? And it's like, you have to let that, practice stoicism. You have to let that feeling pass, and then you have to take by the way, when I got that death threat, I was with my mom. I was at my parents' place when I got that death threat, and my mom was on her deathbed, right? So it's not like I could just go to the rest of the family and go, hey, folks, because, I mean, that would have potentially even killed my mom at that point, right? Hey, folks, I got a death threat. Right? Like, I'm sure that would have gone over with mom quite well at that point in time. Right? Like, it's really jarring when you get stuff like that. And I totally get what Tate's going through. I mean, I've only experienced it on a very low level myself. Right? Again, right? Like, the people who are organizing this and coordinating this are they're losing right now. They're losing badly, but I have to point out, right, and I said this right at the very start, like, I mean, the most dangerous animal is the one that's cornered. And unless Roger has anything else more to say, we'll move on to the next topic.
Well, no, actually, you said quite a bit there.
All right.
I think you're actually secretly in love with Tate, to be honest. You secret lover. Secret lover.
Oh, well, whatever you say. Welcome to the Red Pill Nation. One standard, no standard. Anyway, let's move on to the next topic here, which will be... Okay. All right. So the next topic will be, look at that. The lawsuit that Donald Trump had against YouTube. Anyway, you have to go back to January the 6th. And yeah, the political leftists love to thump the war drum. They still try to thump the war drum on January the 6th. And again, right, you push, it's like, even when you push through all of the rhetoric that they join up, like, some of these people are still stupid enough to keep doubling down. Oh, well, people died on January 6th. Yeah, people died on January 6th. You want to know who died? Ashley Babbitt died when she got shot by a rubber bullet. Ashley Babbitt died on January 6th. That's who died. Yes, there was one there was a police officer that died. Nobody got killed by being beaten to death with a fire extinguisher. That's been debunked.
Yeah, but was it a rubber bullet though?
I think it was a rubber bullet. I'm not sure.
They're saying it was, but like it didn't look like a freaking rubber bullet that shot her in the neck when she was crawling through that freaking crosswalk. You know, I mean, if you look at the video, man, she wasn't hit by no rubber bullet. It was instantaneous.
Okay, like I said, although strangely enough, Henrik and Scooby were at that particular event. You know, although they were on the other side of the building where all the rioting was taking place. That side of the building was relatively calm and peaceful. It was the other side there where they were climbing the walls and were allegedly the fence barrier, the thing tying the barriers that were tying all the fence pieces together was conveniently removed, and it was conveniently removed at the place where there was a direct path between where Trump was making a speech and where Congress was, right? And of course, you can see Ray Epps like literally guiding people to that particular spot, right? That's like, yeah, and it's like, of course, also the FBI, and they were really snarky about this when they were first asked. It was like, oh, I can't answer that. I can't answer that. I can't say, well, yeah, well, guess what? Now that you have Kash Patel, and I'm not saying Kash Patel is perfect by any stretch, but now you got Kash Patel in charge at the FBI. These same snarky assholes that were making all of these like comments on that particular topic are not being so snarky. And lo and behold, it turns out that particular event was absolutely crawling with undercover FBI operatives. I know that's personally shocking to you, but anyway, like getting on January 6th, what ended up happening is that social media knowingly, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, they all knowingly took him offline. They took him off the platform, even though he was still the president, right? And it was very, very, very obvious that, I mean, it was, and then they even tried to impeach a guy who wasn't even the president anymore. And again, right, not a fan of Trump, but I mean, again, looking at the facts, and oh yeah, let's not forget, and this is definitely incoming, the willful and vigorous prosecution of individuals who weren't really involved at all. Basically, the attempt to basically throw the book at these individuals. Like, for instance, Enrique Tarrio was not even the head of the Proud Boys was not even in D.C. He sent one text to a guy that was there. And they sentenced him to 21 years in jail over it. Of course, that has been Donald Trump pardoned him because he wasn't even there, right? But it was like that's the type of thing that they were dealing with. Now, getting back to this, Trump, when he got into office, immediately engaged, and I mean, I'm like, Zuckerberg basically took a knee right away. Sundar Pichai and Google and YouTube, though, decided that they were going to hold out and they were going to try and fight this. But again, right, like there's not, like saying, "Oh well, Trump said that was a secret dog whistle," and blah blah blah. The unfortunate thing is that even the dog whistle argument falls apart because the timing just doesn't work, right? Like the fence got torn down. The fence was taken down while Trump was 6 minutes apparently before Trump even said march over to Congress peacefully. Right? So, I mean, it's like, it's kind of hard. Again, you could suggest coordination, but it's like there's not an actual smoking gun there, right? And, it's like the whole thing fell apart and all these folks just jumped on board. And a lot of it because of the stuff with COVID and whatnot. And yeah, it did not go particularly well for them. Shocker of shockers. And YouTube took a look at this and there's just not a smoking gun, or there's just not evidence to show that Trump was coordinating anything in regards to J6. And YouTube just said, "Oh, no, we're settling." Which of course which begs the question, because there's still a couple of these companies that are still trying to fight Trump over this. But again, right, these companies are basically being brought to heel pretty quickly for very obvious reasons. And again, right, we're going to be talking a lot about this. I could get into this a little bit more. We were talking about YouTube at the start of the show. YouTube is in serious trouble financially. And to quote Louis Rossman, they're acting like a company that is basically going through the couch looking for spare change right now. I mean, they're not censoring anymore, but they're engaging in business practices that clearly suggest that they're about the money. I'm not even going to get into the AI because I've covered the AI stuff before. But yeah, like YouTube in particular is in some financial trouble. And that's not looking particularly good for them. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roger.
Well, with YouTube, when we were talking about that, the thing that I think is they're not getting the funding from the government like they were getting with the USAID, because once the paycheck stops, you start finding out what YouTube's all about. They're about the freaking money. They don't care about what you believe in or anything like that. I know that their CEO is a lesbian, I believe.
YouTube, no, CEO is a guy right now.
The one that was before him.
Wojcicki was heterosexual. She had a son, actually, who died of a drug overdose, rather ironically.
Well, I was told that she was a lesbian, though.
So she might have been. I never really looked. She might have been.
I remember when she was running YouTube, it used to piss me off because she would do that. She'd make it to where everybody's freaking channel had the gay pride flag waving for Gay Pride Month or day or whatever they got. They got like a holiday, I guess, amongst themselves. But I remember they were doing that. But when it all comes down to it, at the end of the day, freaking, it's all about the money. It's just like with Zuckerberg, when Donald Trump got into office, all of a sudden now he's turning into the freaking Donald Trump flagship. You know what I mean? He's all aboard. It's all about freaking freedom of speech, and we got to end this censorship. You know what I mean? When Biden was in office, he was just as bad at it as what YouTube was. Actually, Facebook is way worse than what YouTube is. That's the reason why I stopped going there. I literally stopped using Facebook because of the censorship. It was ridiculous. And then they're completely out of their minds when it comes to their copyright infringement shit. Like I was getting copyright infringement problems going on from just the dumbest shit, you know what I mean? From posts that I made like 10 years previously, just mysteriously they popped up. And now YouTube, they're trying to get clever now with their copyright. Apparently now a person who wants to say that you're infringing on their copyright can do it themselves. They can send an accusation that you're using their copyright material in order to get you to take your content down. And I'm hearing a lot of people. There's a guy that I've actually been watching for quite some time. He's a musician, and he got on YouTube here recently and was talking about how he went and he composed a freaking entire song from Beethoven. I believe it was from Beethoven that he composed, and he ended up freaking putting on YouTube, and some jackhole decides that he's gonna hit him with a freaking copyright infringement. And this wasn't even YouTube. This was another individual who was just another content creator. And well, if you guys want to know, he goes by Davies. But he ended up. It got to the point where he's had to deal with it twice so far, and he's a big content creator. And he says he has the money from the revenue he's gotten from YouTube to freaking take care of it. But he could imagine if it was a small content creator who was putting up with people just making false copyright claims. Okay. Now, these days, if you get hit with copyright infringement on YouTube, that can shut you down, period. It's actually worse than if you get freaking a community strike, you know what I mean? Which I didn't realize that until here recently, but it is actually worse. It's they can literally put you in jail for copyright infringements now on there. They can also freaking send you to court and arrest you. I thought that was pretty crazy. But anyhow, that's the kind of stuff that's going on with YouTube, and the trick is now they can't censor you personally through YouTube, but they can send out henchmen that can make false copyright infringement claims until your channels get shut down. So my best suggestion to you on YouTube is if you are putting content on your channels, make sure it's your shit. Don't use other people's stuff. Okay? Because if you do, freaking, you're going to get hit by it. That's if you care about YouTube, which I know Naroki, he doesn't care about YouTube. So.
Oh, no, yeah, YouTube, it's like YouTube comprises... Well, let me think here. Let me just take a look here. Let me just do a quick calculation here. YouTube, actually, it's been growing. It was only about 3%. It's now 9% of my total viewership, right? It's growing, but I mean, it's like, I've only got 90 subs on my YouTube channel. I really don't necessarily, I would like there to be more growth there, but it's like, I'm not gonna sweat it if my YouTube channel gets shut down, right? It's like, it would be a kind of unfortunate because I've got all the Spetsnaz archive stuff, and I've got when the current situation clears up with what I'm going through right now, I'll be going to be posted up a lot more Sunrise hoodie stuff, and I've fallen behind on my stuff because of what I've been going through personally. But it's like, the uploading does continue. right?
Mhm.
So it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter to me, right? And also, and this is something that the quartering has pointed out, once you get to a certain size on YouTube, that is specifically when they start targeting you, because then they know that you've got money to go after.
Mhm.
Again, right? It's a moot point with me because I'm not planning on monetizing any time on YouTube. So somebody hits me with a copyright claim, okay, I'll just take it down. No biggie, right? Be
Yeah.
my guest, right? Like, what are you going to sue me for? I mean, that might change down the road, but right now it's like, yeah, I really, like I say, I really don't give a shit about YouTube. I barely care about Facebook. The one thing I do particularly care about Facebook now, though, is the fact that it's a lot harder to get an account now on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so I'm having to be a lot more careful with what I do there. I mean, for instance, I had to drop a group on Facebook like just a couple of days ago, because like it was about 330,000 people on this site, and it was like, you know, it was one thing when there was a bunch of unhinged feminists on there, but now you've got assholes like posting up porn, and you've got people engage. Basically, once the race baiting really started on that site, it was like, no, that's it, right?
Done with it.
Like, I mean, once the site gets into race baiting, it usually disintegrates very quickly.
Yep.
That's been my experience. Once you get the race baiters in here making a bunch of noise, it's like, yeah, it's time to leave, right? So I left. Again, right? I just, at this point in time, I really can't be dealing with the aggravation of dealing with that type of thing. Although, again, right, I'm gonna miss all the memes that I was getting off that group. But I mean, it's not like I'm running short of memes to use, though. And yeah, like I said, the Roki 5 live stream, the next show, which I might even do tomorrow afternoon, is going to be a continuation of all of the memes. By the way, yeah, 4 shows I've done on memes, and those are just memes that I've picked. Most of those memes I picked up in the last 2 months. But anyway, I think we're pretty much done with this particular topic.
Yeah. That was probably the weirdest rant you've done so far. You realize you just did a rant, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, who does not do rants on this show?
No, I
right?
mean, it was like it just came out of nowhere and shit. I was like in the middle of a conversation and bam, you just, wow. Oh shit. You know Facebook and all of them are irritating the shit out of you, dude.
Yeah, well, it's like, like I say, I had to drop that group, man.
Yeah.
Once it gets into race baiting, it's like there's not.
Mhm.
Once it gets into race baiting, it's like, yeah, it's time to leave.
And when you bring that up, I hear people all talk shit about how horrible it was when they got rid of Google Plus, and that was one reason why I had no problem with Google Plus being gone, is because there was all that race baiting shit going on. If you remember back then when it was out, man, that's all you ever freaking saw on that freaking platform.
Well, I mean, it's like, that's the reason why I limit my participation with Gab, right? It's a lot of the stuff on Gab on certain groups is the same, but it's in reverse. I mean, I don't want to say it's like white nationalist, because it's the truth of the matter, and the percentages are actually not that particular. But I mean, on certain, like, because of the way Gab is run, there's much less censorship and there's much less control on what goes on. Same thing with Minds and BitChute as well, right? Like, you get these individuals like that are actual full blown like far right white supremacists on these people, and like the Jew behind every blade of grass crowd also just thrives in those places, right? And it's like, I think I will freely admit, man, like, that crowd is as dangerous as unhinged, as insane as the far left is, right? But in a slightly different way. Like, for instance, I'll just go into a bitch story here before we get into Bill C. It actually is Bill C-11. I posted up a video from Redacted on BitChute one time, and it was about African American black guys who were preppers, right? And about how that particular community really, like the African American community, really looks down on black preppers. They do, right? And it's like, well, it's like this just assumes that it's sort of like, like just because, and the guy they were doing the interview with, it's like, well, it's like, they want to be stupid about this, like, be my guest, right? But it's like, I'm not going along with the herd, just because some idiots that I grew up with.
So have you had this conversation with V yet?
Actually, I have had this conversation with V. It's like I talked to him about that. I actually talked to him. This was a few months ago. Like, to assume that every black person is so fucking stupid that they're not able to put two and two together is just absolutely astounding. But yeah, like the black preppers, and there are black preppers out there, right? They're facing a lot of blowback. And that's not what it was with V. What ended up happening is that when I posted this up, some white supremacist went off on some fucking rant. And it was like, dude, right? Like, just because someone's black, because their skin happens to be black, doesn't mean that they're not stupid enough to put two and two together, right? Like, just because somebody's black doesn't mean they're not stupid enough to run their own business and organize their life in a way that guarantees the safety of their family. Like, I mean, that's just plain stupid. And this guy was like, oh, well, blacks are like this and blacks are like, I don't really fucking care, dude, right? Like, like you're actually making the case for this guy when you do this shit, right?
Son, and what's wrong with black people being preppers in the first place? Like, is there like, oh my God, he's a prepper?
Well, I mean, it's just the same thing as why is there a problem with black people being conservatives, right? It's like,
like it goes against the narrative, basically.
Yeah, you're like, well, same thing with me when it comes to the residential schools, right? Mm-hmm. Like my response to the residential schools is, I'm going to wait until, because like, I mean, I talked to members of my family when this first happens. Like I had relatives that were part of the residential school program. And what I got told by them was that we went to school for the school year. And then when the school year ended, we went home and helped the family on the farm. That's what happened with the people that went to the residential schools that I went to. And they made a whole bunch of claims about numbers, including one guy who claimed it was like 90,000 natives died in the system. And I ran the numbers because again, I have some very mixed opinions about Lauren Southern, for instance, but Lauren Southern did some fairly good research on this, and she said, well, this is how many residential schools were in Canada. This is how long they ran, right? So I looked at the number that Kevin Arnett came out with, and I ran the numbers. And in order for the numbers that Kevin Arnett said to be true, there would have been 10 to 12 students die or get killed per school per year for over a century. Okay?
Well, and it was like, dude, like, come on, you got to finally admit that there is cannibalism going on in that freaking country. You are always denying the fact that that's not going.
No, yeah, I mean if they were disappearing at that rate, though, like somebody would have noticed a lot sooner, right? Like, I mean, there would have been a lot of cases of natives like wondering where the hell their kids were disappearing to. Because, I mean, you're talking about 10 to 12 students per school per year. Oh, sorry, between 10 and 12. Between 5 and 10 students per school per year for decades. Right? Like, I mean, that's just like, I mean, like the numbers were just too large to justify the numbers. And of course, like they've had, and I point this stuff out and I get yelled and screamed at. It's like, I don't care. Like, I don't, right? Like the numbers don't back up what they're claiming, right? And of course, right, they've done excavations. They haven't found anything. Even the Kamloops school, like they absolutely refuse to do an excavation on that site to dig up one of the bodies and produce an autopsy, right? It's like, and they're the response from the Trudeau. And when we get into the next topic, I will cover this even more, right? Mm-hmm. The response from Trudeau around this was to attempt to make it criminal to be critical of the residential schools. Yeah, that's what happened, right? So it's like, if you're going to accuse, so it's like, yeah, and I've had people yell and scream at me and call me a race traitor because I'm like saying, well, no, sorry, the evidence just isn't there, right? Mm-hmm. I've had people accuse me of being a race traitor for being that way. And it's like, yeah, well, you know what? Like if they excavate a body and they do an autopsy and they determine, and by the way, it would have to be more than one, then I will be then I will be on board, right? And I'm not being a race traitor or an apple or whatnot for pointing out actual facts. Now, unless you have actual facts, you can fuck off, or you can actually come at me with something that's not rhetoric.
Right.
Right? And it's like nothing's happened, right?
Well, I mean, I just, seriously, like with these fires that are going on up there and with a lot of the disappearances that have happened up there, I think they're burning something out of those forests that they don't want to be too close to civilization.
I also think those wildfires in Canada are potential, because there's some very suspicious circumstances around those wildfires, and we're really going off on a tangent here. But strangely enough, we're actually going to be going right into Canadian content right after this. Those fires were. A lot of those fires were set up. A lot of them were done on purpose, like the ones in Alberta last year. Like the one allegedly in Jasper may have also been set on purpose. But it's like that is designed, I think, to make people want to move into the more urbanized areas. That's just my pet theory on this, right?
Well, that would go along with what I'm saying. Like you've got old stories, man, that go all the way back up there about freaking creatures that eat people.
Yeah, and, well, I get
like right. you know the Wendigos originally.
Oh, I know about the Wendigos. In fact, I'm actually there. I've actually got a watch. I got a Northern Alberta Wendigo video that I might actually watch tonight before I go to bed. Right. I am very much aware of it. But again, right, that's the thing, right? When it comes to that's what goes on about this. And again, right, the Canadian government's idea of dealing with it is to censor the critics, which, by the way, gets me into the next topic here. So let me just move right into that. Oh, look at that. Canadian government and censorship. Oh, wow. Who'd have seen that coming? You're just shocked, aren't you, Roger?
No, actually, is it kind of like the freaking protection bill from England? where it's supposed
It's
to be?
very similar. All right, Carney kind of reworded it a little bit. And it's like he's made it more of an executive thing as opposed to a bureaucratic issue. He's also being a lot quieter about it. Like he's not like ham fisting C-11 like, say, Trudeau was. Probably because he's a lot smarter than Trudeau. But it's basically, but there's been some changes on C8 as opposed to what Trudeau was passing. Among the changes that have been made between C11 and C8 is that this particular bill allows an individual in an executive position or in a security position to basically just take down your internet and your phone and not even tell you, right? Not even give you an explanation, right? There's a little bit less criminality involved, but at the same time, like the terms for criminality have been changed, but the length of sentences have been increased. Again, though, the issue that Carney is facing, though, when it comes to this, is that if he tries to pass this stuff while Alberta separation is still in the air, it's like, I mean, if he tries to basically put the censorship bill in while the Alberta situation is not settled, like if he tries to enforce Bill C-11, first of all, Daniel Smith will almost guaranteed invoke notwithstanding on C-11. Because if she doesn't, that would be the end of her premiership. And it's also the fact of the matter is that if they try, same thing with what Trudeau attempted to do. Like Trudeau at one point was considering doing the same thing in Canada that the farmers in Germany, in the lowlands in France were doing with the farmers here, and he decided not to do it. The reason why he decided not to do it is because it's like, again, right, he's already pissed off the energy sector in Alberta. Like if he had initiated this farmer plan, which is what they had done in Germany, like the Alberta separation would have been a legit thing. It still might be a legit thing. There's a bunch of things that Carney cannot do right now, because if he does it, because I mean, I had to tell some relative, I had to tell an aunt in BC last night about this. It's like, contrary to what you may have been seeing in the mainstream media, Alberta separation is a coin flip right now, right? Like it is entirely possible with just with one political party right now, it is entirely possible that Alberta can, if the separatists can work out a deal with that 5 to 10% of the Conservative Party that is hesitant about separation, if they can work out a deal with them, it's a done deal, is basically what it boils down to, right? So it's like it's touch and go, and like Carney cannot afford to get too authoritarian with Alberta, because if Alberta leaves, like there goes Canada's cash cow, right? And when that basically, if Alberta leaves, the whole country the country does one of two things. Each of the countries basically declares independence and becomes their own country, or B, various provinces, and this is also a very real possibility, various provinces in Canada just say, no, fuck it, we're going to join the U.S. and become territories or states, right? So it's like, yeah, Carney has to basically walk a bit of a tightrope right now, because he can't afford to get too authoritarian about this, So he's being really, really quiet and like really trying, like he's not trying to pull a lot of the ham-fisted moves that Trudeau was doing around this, because if he does, right, like it's like Alberta leaving is pretty much a done deal at that point, right? So it's like he can't really do anything. And like I say, the vote for Alberta separation, and there is going to be a vote for Alberta separation, by the way, is only about a year or so away. So that basically means that Carney will not be able to pass any bills for at least 2 legislature sessions, which means that he's going to have to wait until the spring of 2027 to do it, which is basically 3 years into his 4-year deal, which means that basically it's like he can, effectively the Alberta provincial government is the only thing basically standing between Canada turning into Great Britain at this point, right? And it's like as soon as Alberta makes up its mind, that's going to be a determiner as to whether or not Carney does this. But yeah, he is attempting to do it. He's changed the rules around a little bit. Okay, Trevor. Yeah, thank you very much. Finally, Canadian content. Yeah, well, I try to usually include Canadian content. The No More Pipelines bill. Well, yeah, we might do that. We might cover that in a week or two, Trev. The issue with that is that it's like, I've already got 7 topics tonight, and the censorship bill, because of what I do, because I'm a streamer, it takes a little bit more priority. But yeah, I will take a look at the pipelines bill. It won't be for 464. I might look at it for 465. But yeah.
What's your guys' stance on that pipeline thing, though?
Are
they for or against it? Like
they are. Well, the Canadian government is definitely against it. It's again, Daniel Smith has made this abundantly clear. It's like, it's like you cooperate with us, or we will just simply. And and Trump has had probably multiple conversations with Daniel Smith or representatives of the American government. Daniel Smith have had talks about this. In fact, they have had talks about this. Mm-hmm. The U.S. will quite happily buy up the oil that Alberta is producing at this point, right? Stable sources of oil, especially stable sources of oil from allies of the United States, are pretty much like gold right now. And that's probably also one of the reasons why, Trev, I think I will give this a little bit, although again, I didn't follow along with what happened between Carney and Trump. I probably will throw that in for 464 now that you think about it. Thank you very much for reminding me. Carney did go down to Washington, D.C. this week and did have more discussions with Trump, which of course went absolutely nowhere. Carney came back up empty-handed, and again, right, Carney is a lot smarter than that. And again, right, I've noticed when it comes to Mark Carney, and he's also clearly had discussions with Rob Ford, who is the Premier of Ontario. They're ramping down the rhetoric when it comes to Trump right now, for damn good reason, because they know it's not going to work out in their favor. Anyway, I'm going to turn it over to you, Roger. Have your say.
Well, I know, like, the moment freaking Canada says that it's a go, Donald Trump's going to jump on that, because the North American pipeline was his dream child back in his first term. So if it does open up in Canada, I mean, I think it's kind of sad that Canada's oil industry has gone down so much. A lot of people lost their jobs up there because of that, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
So, I mean, it's kind of sad. Everybody's talking about global warming causing the freaking warm up in Canada. And I mean, whatever, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, the, the I don't know. I hear my friend Tan. I don't know if you ever got to meet him yet, but he's talking about. I mean, it's actually feels a little bit colder now up there than what it did before. You know, so I I don't get what they're talking about. Maybe it's just the fact that there isn't as much snow on the ground and that they're able to uh, put pipelines where they couldn't do it before or some crap like that, you know. But I you know, Canada it needs the money, plain and simple. It'd be nice if you guys could get back on your feet when it comes to that stuff instead of running around killing ostriches like you've been doing. I've already had my attitude with Canadians when it comes to frickin' horses. You bunch of horse meat eaters. Now you're wanting to kill ostriches. What are you going to do with those? I heard they had frickin' like the swine flu. You going to eat swine flu ostriches now?
Yeah, lovely swine flu ostrich. Anyway, yeah, no, that whole thing with the ostriches, I vacillated on including that as a topic. I might throw that in. Might throw that in next week. Yeah, I don't want you. Like, I mean, Jaffe really went off on an ostrich tangent here a couple of weeks, a few days ago. And it was like, well, I mean, I'll be straight up with you. It's not a topic that I cover, but is not a surprise because there's definitely, it's not about the ostriches. There's definitely something. I mean, again, follow the money. There's definitely
it's the government's nature up there. For some reason, they have this fascination with calling. They want to herd animals up and freaking slaughter them, dude. And
well, I mean, they've got the MAID program as well, too. By the way,
yeah. You know, that's pretty demented. I mean, I always thought I knew that Canada was all about Care Bears and fluffy stuff. You guys are real nice and courteous to everybody. But in the background, you're hunting horses and slaughtering them so you can make cheeseburgers out of them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of creepy all on its own. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, again, right. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. Anyway, C8 again. Carney is being a lot more careful about it because it's like, if he gets too heavy-handed right now, Alberta's going to leave. But let's move on to the next topic here. Let me just figure out what the next topic is because once again, Teams won't boot up to inform me what the next topic is. What the hell? Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. So, for God's sakes. God damn it, man. What is...
Okay, so Trump administration appears to be preparing for war as situations heat up over both Ukraine and Israel versus Iran.
Okay, I got 3 videos here. They run, no, 2. They run about 4 minutes here, but now the Rumble Studio's not cooperating. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's just get this going here. First one is going to be on woke. Okay, come on.
But then the president, after he said that, went on to say,
Come on, there we go.
But then the president, after he said that, went on to say, I need you and I want you to restore the warrior ethos in our military, full stop. And that's been my first priority since day one, is restoring the warrior ethos. It's one of the most fundamental of those three objectives. Again, humans, more important than hardware. Everything starts and ends with warriors from training to the battlefield. We are leaving wokeness and weakness behind. No more pronouns, no more climate change obsession, no more emergency vaccine mandates, no more dudes in dresses. We're done with that shit. We're focused on lethality, meritocracy, accountability, standards, and readiness. That's why since Election Day, since President Trump was elected, recruitment and retention numbers are up historically. Attracting military service is something Americans have long been attracted to, but more so when they see leadership they want to follow. They want to be in disciplined formations that value them not for immutable differences, not for the color of our skin or gender, but because of honor and integrity and grit and patriotism. They want a meritocracy where they can work hard, make themselves better, kick ass, and rise up.
The next one here, Hegseth on quota. Here we go.
For too long, we've promoted too many uniformed leaders for the wrong reasons, based on their race, based on gender quotas, based on historic so-called firsts. We've pretended that combat arms and non-combat arms are the same thing. We've weeded out so-called toxic leaders under the guise of double-blind psychology assessments, promoting risk-averse, go-along-to-get-along conformists instead. You name it, the department did it. Foolish and reckless political leaders set the wrong compass heading, and we lost our way. We became the woke department, but not anymore. Right now, I'm looking out at a sea of Americans who made a choice when they were young men and young women to do something most Americans will not, to serve something greater than yourselves, to fight for God and country, for freedom and the Constitution. You made a choice to serve when others did not, and I commend you. You are truly the best of America. But this does not mean, and this goes for all of us, that our path to this auditorium on this day was a straight line, or that the conditions of the formations we lead are where we want them to be. You love your country, and we love this uniform, which is why we must do better. We just have to be honest. We have to say with our mouths what we see with our eyes, to just tell it like it is in plain English, to point out the obvious things right in front of us. That's what leaders must do. We cannot go another day without directly addressing the plank in our own eye, without addressing the problems in our own commands and in our own formations. This administration has done a great deal from day one to remove the social justice, politically correct, and toxic ideological garbage that had infected our department, to rip out the politics. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. No more debris. As I've said before, and will say again.
Yeah. So the War Department, and it's now called the War Department, by the way, has made it very, very clear. And again, right, they can read the writing. The Trump administration could read the writing on the wall with this one, right? Europe keeps poking the bear when it comes to this issue. There is a very, very real possibility here that, Putin might get overruled, Putin might die, and the person that takes over Putin's position might not be as patient. I mean, so yeah, while Trump is basically trying to de-escalate situations, and again, right, he just worked out again, right, playing to his strengths. He has worked out a deal with Israel and Hamas. And that, by the way, we'll be talking about that at 464. But he's also been trying to do a deal with Ukraine and Russia and Israel and Iran, and he hasn't been getting a whole lot of support from Europe on this. Like, the European Union seems determined to try to provoke Russia into a war. And it's not going. It's like, I mean, and Trump has had to take some stances with the Europeans on this issue in order to strengthen his negotiating position. And again, right, I mean, that negotiation position means that Trump's allies in NATO have to be operating in good faith, which means, for the love of God, will you please stop fucking poking Russia, right? And he also has people, and this is part of the reason why Pegseth is going after the wokesters inside the armed forces. I mean, Roger, you remember that? Did you remember those commercials that came out about a year and a half ago or whatever? My Two Moms?
My Two Dads is one that I remember now.
No, it was my Two Moms. It was like, yeah. And that was countered with that one with the Russian military ad promoting, and it was like, yeah, it was a bit of a joke. The idea with war is that war is about war. War is ugly. War is hell. War is killing people. War is politics by any other means. So, right, it's the military is not a job provider, right? The military is there to serve a very specific function, right? And that function isn't to help promote wokeness. Like I said, right, you go back to this meme right here where he was kicking the woke culture out of the military. That's something that he has to do, right? It's like, like you're in a combat situation, and like you can't trust the guy next to you. And I'm not even in the armed forces, and you can't trust the guy next to you because he's a woke fucking idiot, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like you need the people that are sitting there in that trench with you, are fighting along your side, to be reliable as people that you can count on to have your back, or even specifically to carry you out of a fight if you get injured, right? Most women cannot pick up a fully grown man with the equipment and drag him back to safety. They might be able to do it with even with other women, they can't do it, right? Like, that's a standard, right? You have to be able to grab an injured guy, pick him up, and your equipment, by the way, and carry that guy to safety, right? Like, you have to have your comrades back. I get that, right? It's like, I'm shocked at how many people don't get that. And it's like, yeah, and Hegseth is like figured out, well, I mean, if there's going to be a war, we actually have to have troops that are in fighting condition, right? And that's the thing. It's not just Russia. China keeps making threats about Taiwan. right? Venezuela keeps making threats about one of the countries bordering them, because that country has got some oil resources, right, and a very, very weak military, right? And of course, like, he did settle the issue in the Congo, but there was effectively a full-scale war going on in Central Africa over the resources there, and it was between Zaire and those those small Central African countries, which included, ironically enough, Rwanda, right? And also, by the way, India is also got more people now than China, and they're not playing ball with China either, because China cannot get into a tit for tat. We'll lose one person, you lose one person. That would be just if a war between China and India would be an absolute bloodbath, right? So you're looking at this, you're looking at the situation, and you've got unreliable allies that keep poking the bear. You've got China threatening to drag its ass. You've got a potential war between Israel and Iran, which Trump has had to basically send missiles in, drones in to deal with when it comes to Iran. But you've got that situation. You also had Israel and Hamas. You have Ukraine and Russia. I mean, you've also got, and it's not just Central America now. Now he's looking at a situation where his northern border, Canada, is not so stable either. Right? Canada might not exist as a nation in a few years' time. And you can't rule out the possibility that, given how desperate globalists are, that they might actually try to use armed forces. They might. I don't think they will, because Canada doesn't have enough military to occupy its own country at this point. But the issue is that if Alberta leaves, all of the western provinces are also going to be in the situation where they might have to leave. BC will be right at the top of that list, and if BC leaves, China will absolutely try to make a play for the port of Vancouver, and Trump will probably have to intervene there to prevent the Chinese from stepping in. Like, they cannot give China a foothold in North America. Like, they cannot allow that to happen, right? So it's there's a whole series of things that Trump is looking at on a lot of different fronts. And it's part of the issue is that when stuff like that happens, first thing you got to do is you got to look at your own backyard and go, yeah, I think we need to get our affairs in order in our own backyard first, which means turning the armed forces into what it's supposed to be, which is a fighting wartime force, hence the redefinition of the Department of Defense into the Department of War, and making sure that the armed forces are not just a employment agency, which is what they turned into, and that they're actually going to go out and actually fight a war, because it's a very real possibility that they might at some point. And also, you're also looking at the possibility that you've got internal terrorist groups like Antifa, and there's probably a couple of other ones out there that might resort to outright use of terrorism and to destabilize the United States government from within, right? And you need a strong military to deal with that as well, right? So no kidding, Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump and the Trump administration have decided that we're gonna be more about strengthening our armed forces and being less about an employment agency. Like, anybody who here is shocked about that really needs to evaluate what planet they're living on right now. Because, again, if I was in Trump's position, if I was Hegseth, I would be doing the exact same thing, right? And oh yeah, by the way, Trump has very unreliable allies at the moment, particularly even Canada, right? Like his NATO allies are very inconsistent right now. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roger.
Well, I mean, the whole thing. I'm not going to say that Trump and this whole war shit's like really great. I mean, when I was one of the people that actually went down and voted for Donald Trump, okay? And like freaking from the time I voted for him to now, in my opinion, he's shown his true colors. I mean, like what he pretended to be and what he became are two different things. I see him more now as a neocon than what I do as a Tea Party member or a part of MAGA. It's getting so bad that members of MAGA are getting on their shows now and saying, freaking, well, you know, everybody, they need to understand Donald Trump isn't MAGA. We're MAGA, you know, because they're starting to see the same stuff. So I find it kind of disturbing that Donald Trump is freaking going into these countries and attacking them when he point blank used that as his freaking as his whole election campaign slogan. You know, he was real big on pointing out the fact that he wasn't the person that wanted to go out and start wars, and then all of a sudden he's bombing Yemen, he's bombing Iran, he's freaking he's at first, you know, he was going to go in and he's going to take care of this issue with Russia and Ukraine, and now he's talking about possible conflicts with them. And you know, he didn't even have a conversation about Iran. He just straight up freaking bombed them in the secret, or in the middle of the night twice, you know. Then all of a sudden he's talking about putting resorts up in freaking on the West Bank. He's gonna kick all those freaking dirty Palestinians out, and he's gonna build a resort. And he's gonna make it to where all the rich and famous can go there and freaking all this crazy shit. And let's see, let's not even talk about his plans on shipping all those dirty freaking Mexicans to what was it, El Salvador, you know. And at one time they were gonna drop off. What they did is they took illegals, they put them on a bus, sent them to the freaking border, and they dropped them off, and that was it. You know what I mean? Now freaking they want to ship them to another country and put them in prison. Oh no, we're just talking about the convicts. No, that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about everybody goes to these freaking prisons. Then they turn around and he wanted to send people to Guantanamo Bay. It doesn't matter if they're convicts or not. Freaking Guantanamo Bay was where people were freaking tortured, dude. It's a freaking blight on freaking the American history, the United States. We shouldn't be proud of the fact that that place is still open. It should have been shut down decades ago because of the shit that took place there. Even the thought of wanting to use Guantanamo Bay for any purpose whatsoever is a freaking something that people need to stop and take a look at, okay? There's nothing good about that place. The Iraq War was freaking a red herring in the first place. And look at what they did there in Iraq, too. They were freaking doing crazy shit. Freaking torturing freaking people, humiliating them. They had this picture of freaking Arabs freaking laying on top of one another as a form of humiliation, and they were butt naked, and this woman was sitting there in front of them. I remember that to this day. They did that kind of shit, you know. This is what Guantanamo Bay was, and this is what that man freaking wanted to do. And he's you know, he claims that he has a problem with freaking the drugs and everything, but I notice freaking nothing's being done here when it comes to drugs. I mean, real drugs. People freaking who have heroin problems, people who have freaking opium problems, they're not being taken care of. Instead, he keeps talking about this freaking drug, this exotic drug that's coming out of China because China's the enemy. China's the enemy. Meanwhile, freaking England and Europe the EU are freaking trying to push socialist freaking regulations that they have over in their region here on us in the United States and in Canada too, by the way. And everybody's focusing on China. You know, I don't buy it. I don't buy this crap that frickin' Russia is frickin' the bad guy and China's the bad guy and that frickin' we need to watch out because they're trying to frickin' do this to us, and we've got those horrible, horrible people from frickin' Mexico who frickin' snuck across our border and they're raping our frickin' women, so we need to lock them up, make sure that they don't get to them, you know. All of this is just nationalist bullshit propaganda that's being pushed on frickin' people to frickin' scare them, to make them to where they frickin' will side with them. They're actually trying to frickin' push hate on people, try to stir frickin' emotions, and it's like you said in the beginning, they're just as dangerous as what frickin' the socialists are. And that's what they are. They're nationalists, pushing nationalist propaganda. And you got two sides that are at war right now. And I've said it the last time I came on your show. I seriously believe that there has been a secret war that's been taking place for well over 125 to 150 years now that is between these nationalists and these socialist groups. And just because there hasn't been frickin' front lines and frickin' open combat doesn't mean that it hasn't been taking place. And it's just been escalating and getting worse and worse and worse. What's his name? Kirk, okay? The reason why Kirk actually got assassinated was because of his ideologies, okay? It had nothing to do with freaking him being a good guy or a bad guy. It's because of his ideologies. He was a nationalist who was speaking ethno-nationalist jargon that was pissing socialists off, and he had to go. That's all there is to it, okay? It didn't matter what he was as a person or anything of that nature. That was the reason why he had to get taken out. And I still, to this day, don't believe that a kid who was a furry had the mentality to frickin' take a gun up on top of that building and frickin' shoot him. I'm sorry, but it doesn't fit. This kid was not psychologically capable of doing what everybody says he was able to do. You know?
Well, you have the whole situation with the rifle, you know, to boot, right? That just doesn't add up. It doesn't add up, right? It's like, yeah, there was definitely some other factors in play there for sure.
Yeah. And I don't buy into all this stuff. Like, there's a lot of shit that just doesn't match up, and it's not just him; it's all of this stuff, you know. And it's like I said, I'm really starting to see Trump now as a neocon more than what he played himself out to be. I just don't see it as being, and I don't know. The best thing I can do with Donald Trump now is just sit back and wait, because like he's not even talking about the same shit he was talking about before he got into office. He's done an about turn. So that's all I really have.
All right, yeah. Well, I have to point out something because I am familiar with the history of the Roman Empire. Actually more Nero than Caligula, both Nero and Caligula, when they first, which is the reason why they were actually able to stay in as long as they did, both of those leaders and both of those emperors engaged in populist tactics before they went bad. So it's like, yeah, it's sort of like, yeah, wait 2 or 3 years and see, let's see what happens. And again, like I have listened to podcasts before, right? Sam Tripoli talks about the ceremonial changing of crime families is how he views it, and it's like that's a fairly accurate assessment. You have these two factions inside the U.S. right now trying to vie for control. You have which is currently the current president. You have the Pax Americana wing, and you have the globalists. Now, again, right, each one of those has advantages and disadvantages. And it's like, I mean, with Pax Americana, which is why I'm leaning more towards that, at least you have, as long as you're not interfering with their interests, you're probably going to be okay. Whereas the globalists just wanted to control everything, right? But again, right, it's like when you get into that, even if you keep if the United States keeps engaging with itself internally, like it won't stand very long. But then again, I have to also point out something in regards to this, and this is big picture issue here, is that the issues plaguing the United States right now are happening in every other country on the planet right now. And what's going on is the fact that, even like, for instance, I used to listen to Coast AM, and there was a guy on there called, I can't remember, he was a remote viewer, Ed Dames was his name. And he was like saying, well, no matter what happens, China wins. And it's like, yeah, okay, so China wins. Well, first of all, there's winning, and then there's winning, right? Like, there's winning as in you devastate the opponent or the opponent just basically gives up or whatever. And you have the smashing 50-point victory. And then there's the Pyrrhic victory where it's like another battle like that will cost me so much that I won't be able to stand up as a nation. I mean, there's different versions of winning, right? China might just end up winning the situation, but the only problem is that China has got some serious issues of its own that it has to be dealing with right now. And although they're not as fractious because of the way the government they're structured as they are in the United States, right? They're looking at some serious issues within the state as well. Russia is also dealing with these issues, as is India, as is Brazil, like all of the even in Canada right now, like every country on the planet is dealing with the same issue that is currently happening inside the United States. It's just that the United States is just a little bit further along, right? So it's like, yeah, China wins, but what kind of a win is it going to be, right? Like, is it going to be, yeah, China wins, but China, take a look at what happened with Britain at the end of the Second World War. Yeah, China wins, but they're so exhausted, and they're so drained militarily, financially, culturally, whatever, that they basically collapse from, which is basically what happened to Britain after World War II, right? There's winning, and then there's yeah, we won, but what was the point, right? So, I mean, it's like, yeah, you have to consider that as well, right? So suppose the United States does win. Yeah, okay, the United States wins, but now you've got internal civil war, and you're no longer able to project power outside of a very limited sphere around North America, maybe not even that. So you have to withdraw all of your armed forces from everywhere else in the world, which, by the way, and this is something that a lot of people don't like me saying about this, but I mean, it is, for a huge degree, it is the U.S. Navy and I know some people who might listen to this internationally that are not going to like hearing this, but it's the U.S. Navy that is securing all of those trade corridors.
Oh yeah.
And overseas, it's the U.S. Navy. It's not the Russian Navy. I mean, yeah, okay, around Europe, there's the European navies that are doing it. But I mean, if the U.S. Navy has to withdraw, those sea lanes become very dangerous again, right?
You know about NCIS, right? It's like the greatest freaking secret service organization in the world. Like it's bigger than freaking the CIA, dude.
Oh yeah, like I mean, the U.S. has got what's called strategic reach, and part of that strategic reach was basically to secure the supply lines, not just for the United States, but primarily for the United States, but worldwide, right? Mm-hmm. And if the U.S. ends up falling into civil war, they are going to have to pull back on that strategic reach, right? That means that somebody else is going to have to pick up the slack, right? So who's going to pick up the slack? Well, China. Yeah, well, China doesn't necessarily have, they might have the people, but again, right, they're in trouble. India's in trouble. Russia's barely holding it together. Europe, like there's nobody, even if China wins, are they going to be able to exploit the gap that they created from that win? Right? Like that, this is something that I think a lot of people aren't like, a lot of people in China and India and Russia don't want to hear, right? I mean, there's winning and then there's winning and it's like, oh God, we're so exhausted that we can't do anything else, right? And it's like, yeah, you're looking at even potentially parts of Canada and the United States, they're going to fall into lawlessness as even if there's no nuclear war. Like you might see a situation where you're seeing breakdowns in a lot of local authorities because the U.S. no longer has the armed forces to engage in strategic reach, even within its own country, right? That's what you're looking at if they don't make serious reforms inside the U.S. and they have to move away from Pax Americana and move to a more just let the countries develop as they're going to develop. But I don't think that's not the way Pax Americana works. That's definitely not the way globalism works, for sure.
Well, with this whole Pax Americana thing, I think that's the issue. Like, we need to get back to constitutional government and become that's the thing that a lot of people who aren't in the United States don't understand, okay? Like, you guys see all the crazy shit happening here in the United States, and you say, oh, look how horrible America is. But what you're really looking at is freedom, okay? We give the freedom to these people to freaking act crazy and stand out there on the streets and protest and act crazy. And we give them the right freaking to say things that freaking we don't necessarily, like with these transgenders and all this shit. We give them the right to do that because of constitutional government, just like we give people who are religious the right to freaking say what they want. And it's not a matter of freaking somebody who is a Christian or who's transgender coming into our freaking government and telling us this is the way it's going to be. That's not the way it should have been done. It's not the way it should be done. Okay? We don't have a government that's set up like that. And not only is our Constitution set up to where that's not supposed to be happening, but it's also codified. That means that freaking no government official can come in and change our Constitution on a whim. Okay? Now, these are the two things that are the most important things about the United States Constitution that separates us from the rest of all these constitutional governments. And everybody wants that freaking gone. They don't want that. And that includes people here in the United States who are freaking supposed patriots preaching nationalist freaking propaganda. Okay, and socialists who are here trying to tell us that we need to have freaking transgender bathrooms. None of that belongs in our government. We shouldn't even be having those conversations. But they're there, and it's time for people who are supposedly patriots to go back to the whole constitutional ideas and actually read the Constitution and find out what the hell it's about. Okay? First of all, these religious freaking fanatics, they need to be gone. Okay? We need to stop freaking pushing this Christian ideology onto our government, because it's a separation of religion and state. Muslims don't belong in freaking government preaching the Quran, just like Christians don't belong in government preaching Jesus. They don't belong there, okay? Once they're gone, then all of a sudden we have a secular government that's actually freaking talking about politics. We don't need all that other shit. Okay, we don't need to worry about abortion laws, because freaking abortion should have never been freaking brought up in government in the first damn place. We don't freaking tell other people how they're freaking supposed to take care of their bodies. That's what a Christian does, who's freaking moral and freaking talks about that shit in church where it belongs. Okay, not in government. But we allowed that shit to infiltrate our freaking our government, and now we have to put up with that bullshit. And we've allowed this stuff to happen because nationalists and freaking socialists have freaking hijacked our government, and we don't freaking abide by the Constitution like we need to. So if you call yourself a patriot here in the United States, think about that shit. Stop freaking playing this freaking bullshit. Okay, this isn't a nationalist country. This isn't a freaking socialist country. This is a constitutional government, and that's what our laws are. So, there's my rant. I'm sick of freaking that shit. You know, I'm sick of people freaking getting on the internet talking about freaking how freaking this shit is okay in the United States when it's not fucking okay. It doesn't belong here at all. And there's a difference between our Constitution and England's Constitution and France's Constitution, and there's a huge difference. Okay, our laws, according to the Constitution, our Constitution cannot be freaking changed. They're codified. In other words, they stay the same, period. And the first two, or the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, the same with that. They don't change. The rest of them can be changed. The rest of those amendments can be changed, but the first 10 stay the same. And that's it. And it's written in stone. Okay? And that's what really gets me, man. You know, we got all these freaking laws now that aren't even a part of the freaking Constitution. They're freaking just, they're created and they're illegal, constitutionally illegal. And people have allowed that shit to take place for the last fucking 100 years because they're idiots and they'd rather the government fucking take care of them instead of taking responsibility for themselves. So,
okay, now I guess it was your turn to rant there, huh? All right.
Yeah.
It was your turn to rant. All right. Well, let's move on to the next topic here, because this is, oh, wow, this next one is really, again, right, I was looking at this one here just very recently, and it's like one company doing this is an aberration. Two companies doing this is a coincidence. Several companies doing this is a pattern.
Yeah.
Again, apparently, hold on a second here. I have to clear my throat here. Apparently, the shows that were brought up, and hold on a second here. Maybe I'll just before I will just finish this off, and then I'll play the video. The shows that were brought up apparently are no longer running on Netflix, but it was very, very clear that then Netflix was also a willing participant, as was Disney, as was Roblox. Like, you're seeing more than just a couple. It's gone beyond the point of coincidence now, and it has reached the point where it's like, yeah, this is not just a coincidence. Like, this is a pattern of behavior from multiple companies, all of whom, by the way, have curious connections to BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like you're getting to the point where it's like, yeah, okay, at what point does it stop being a coincidence, and what point does it start actually becoming a pattern? And anyway, I have a video that I'm going to run on this, so I'm just going to run it here. Hold on a second here. Netflix cancellation by, I can't remember his name, but yeah, you'll recognize the face. Here we go.
Why this Netflix cancellation campaign has gone so viral, with hundreds of thousands of people canceling their Netflix subscriptions, including Elon Musk, is the number one trend in the world, and Netflix has lost billions of dollars in their stock. You can see right here an absolute collapse today. The reason why this is actually happening isn't your standard red versus blue political issue. It's a lot deeper than that. It's a moral issue. Have you seen what Netflix has been putting in their children's shows? This isn't like we're trying to push one way or the other. We want Democrats to win. You know, we want like everyone like socialism. Like, it's not like that, okay? Open borders even. It's so much worse. They're sexualizing children. It's got to be the single most radical thing you can do, the single most morally indefensible thing you can do. And I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to play you all the clips. I'm going to show you what they're putting into their programming. That's why this has gone so viral, because Netflix has truly crossed the line. If you believe that this is wrong, you should also cancel your Netflix. Okay, here we go. Here's the mashup of every time Netflix has put transgender, sexualized radical ideology into their children's programming.
How about you break out those moves for your two biggest fans?
I know I'm safe when I'm with my friends or other non-binary people.
Non-binary?
People who aren't female or male. Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have assumed.
Nightshades pronouns are they, them.
He or she just doesn't fit who I am.
My apologies. Please switch their piece.
I'm trans, Norma. And everyone at school knows, and everyone at home knows. And being here, it's like a whole new place.
This is Cherry Chip, reporting from the wedding of the year. Everyone's favorite karate instructor, Sensei Dave, will be marrying mixed martial arts champion Jiu-Jitsu Joe.
He's the undisputed champion of my heart.
Everything okay, Fred?
Oh, the last time I saw my grandma, I used a different name and pronouns.
Cancel your Netflix.
Yup. What can I possibly say about that? Yeah, okay. All of those shows. Yeah, Transformers. Yeah, that was actually a thing. It was at the time. It got mentioned, but nobody actually saw it. Nobody actually saw it through. Again, all of these shows were canceled by Netflix, and they've all been canceled, say, in the last year or so. But it was they still have them up. And it was very, very clear that they were pushing this agenda through, and they would have continued to push this agenda through had Kamala Harris been elected. But again, right, when you start getting into Netflix, of course, Netflix also, by the way, took a stand in the culture war. They kind of backed off on it when they realized that it wasn't good for business, but they did take a stand on it. And my brother, when I visited him where he lives, and he still has his Netflix. I actually tried to find the video, the movie. Cassie J take the red pill, which is basically Cassie J doing what started out as a feminist review of the men's rights in the manosphere, and it ended up with her choosing to not be a feminist anymore. At the end of it, that That movie has been taken offline, but the trash that you just saw in that video and the thing that's currently up on screen right now, that stuff is still there. Right? Netflix took off Cassie J Takes the Red Pill. They've taken off stuff that they've taken off the politically loaded content, but this transgender stuff is still there. And oh, by the way, it's not just Netflix that was doing this, right? It was Disney, it was Roblox, YouTube Kids, right? Like they've got specific people now that monitor YouTube Kids for content like this, right? Like, and it's like when you see, and by the way, I haven't really pushed too hard on it because I'm not gay and I'm not trans and I don't have a dog in that fight and I don't have any kids, right? But it's like, it's really, really obvious now based on the sheer number of companies. And, oh, yeah, hey, let's not forget, too, here's another one that was doing it for a while. Wizards of the Coast with their Magic the Gathering. Like, Wizards of the Coast did not do anything with pedophile judges at Magic the Gathering. Because, again, right, we're talking about, like, most of the players of Magic the Gathering tournaments are kids generally between the ages of 8, 9, and, say, 15, right? And they had pedophile judges at these tournaments, right? When Jeremy Hembling was covering this, Wizards of the Coast, rather than deal with the problem, they booted Jeremy Hembling, a.k.a. the Quartering, off the groups that he belonged to. And they refused to do anything about it until Hasbro had to directly intervene and put rules in. So, I mean, like, you're seeing this occur. And, oh, by the way, let me bring up another one, right? The whole thing of Cuties versus Sound of Freedom. And this is the thing that really turned me off about the film industry, right? Sundance, the single biggest film festival in North America, gave Cuties an award, right? But they wouldn't run Sound of Freedom. Most of the establishment Hollywood community turned on Sound of Freedom, right? But they backed Cuties, which is basically soft-core child porn, to the fucking hilt. To the hilt, right? So you're seeing this happen again and again and again and again and again. And it's, oh yeah, and let's just bring up another one, although this is, I mean, I can't dismiss this anymore as just a coincidence. The fact that the Nickelodeon logo bore a rather striking resemblance to Epstein Island, right? Oh, well, that's just a coincidence. Well, you know, like, you take a look at the bigger picture here, and it's not a coincidence, right? You can't just, like, and of course what happened with Balenciaga. And I could go on and on and on and on and on, right? And it just keeps happening. And it's like, you know, and fortunately, someone noticed, it got Elon. And regardless of how you feel about Elon Musk, it got Elon Musk's attention. And because it got Elon Musk's attention, right, now everybody is paying attention to it. And I guess Netflix is probably going to have to back away on it because, again, I'll just very briefly bring this up. Right, they lost several $1 billion worth of net worth from doing what they chose to do. And, you know, again, right, and as I'm going through Instagram, I'm looking at some of the stuff on there, and it's like they sneak it in everywhere, right? And it's, again, right, at some point you have to go, well, okay, no, it's not just a coincidence. No, it's just not just a couple of people. It's like it's a very clear, focused, organized, coordinated agenda. And something had to be done about it. And so people are doing something about it. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roger here.
Well, I mean, with me, this goes back with the stuff that freaking I was just talking about, like Netflix. If you have problems with this stuff, man, stop watching Netflix. Like I don't watch freaking Netflix. I find it freaking worthless. I mean, why would you spend money on something like that in the first place? I watch Roku, and I can tell you freaking right now that there's channels on Roku that are 5 times better than freaking Netflix, and it's free. All you gotta do is buy the television, and these are channels that aren't even the Roku channel. I don't even watch the Roku channel either. Yeah, I hear a lot of people talk about the wokeness and the censorship and everything that goes on, and I've seen shows on there, man, that they don't have it. I mean, it's stuff that we talk about here. You can actually watch it on there, and it seems odd to me that there's more censorship on freaking YouTube than there is on Netflix. Or not Netflix, but on Roku, on some of these platforms they got on there, or these channels they got on there. But it's true, and that's the thing that I think. I mean, if we live now where we don't have to sit and watch like 3 to 5 channels, and that's it. That's all we have. Now we can pretty much get on and watch 500 channels if we want to, or we can come on the internet and get into Facebook or YouTube or whatever platform we want to go on to on top of that. So we have choices now. If you don't like that kind of shit, don't frickin' be on there, and take responsibility, man. Instead of worrying about the government making sure your kids aren't watching that shit, frickin', then what you should be doing is making sure that your kids don't watch it. It's just like with these pedophiles, man. They've got frickin' phone apps where you can check out how many pedophiles are in your neighborhood. You'd be amazed. Just get that app, man. Click on it, and you'll find out you got at least 20 freaking pedophiles living maybe within not even a mile or 2 from where you live. I guarantee it. I've tried that app out on 4 different locations where I lived, and every single one of them just shows freaking nothing but red dots everywhere. And that's Kansas City, Evansville, here in Illinois, and here in Illinois, freaking in 3 different places actually. So you can sit and talk on the internet about freaking how horrible this shit is, but you might want to take a look at your own neighborhood and find out, man, that the guy living down the street that you enjoy talking to and who you have small talk with might just be a freaking pedophile, Now, with me, I'm not big on the whole transgender thing and this whole binary him and her shit. I think that's childish. I blame that on stupidity, like these younger people fucking. And my generation, our generation, is actually kind of responsible for that. We've allowed our kids to freaking give birth to children, and they in turn freaking were made really, really, really stupid because of our children. When it comes to that, the only thing you can say is, you might be older, You might be up in your 50s and getting ready to retire and all that shit. And you're worried about how your kid's going to treat you and stuff like that. But if you're older and you know that this stuff is just a result of stupidity, you need to start talking to your kids and kind of getting, a fire up their asses and tell them, look, man, you can't be preaching that kind of shit. That's how you take care of this stuff. You got to tell them freaking out front, let them know. I've done that. I don't try to get all freaking preachy with my nephews and nieces and stuff, but whenever I'm around them, I let them know on a personal level. I'm like, look, man, this stuff isn't good, and I'm really glad that they're not freaking hardcore conservative, you know what I mean? But they're not. They don't buy into this crap about freaking the whole woke shit. My sister, she actually woke up when they started trying to push sex education in elementary schools. It blew her out of the water when they wanted to bring sex education into freaking my niece's class, and she was only like 8 years old at the time, maybe 7. And my sister went off on that shit. That's when she ended up having a change of heart when it came to a lot of stuff, because that's what it's about, man. It's about real life issues, things of that nature. There's serious things that you need to focus on, but there's also things that you need to freaking take care of yourself, and like I said before, I think that school systems should be localized. I don't think that freaking we should have a state school board or freaking a federal school system. I think it should be each community should be responsible for their own school systems. And I think that should be done with a lot of things that are going on these days. I don't think we should have government taking care of it. I think that it should be dealt with by the parents and the people locally. I also think freaking if enough people actually stop freaking participating in stuff they don't like, then the activities that are freaking not acceptable to these people would eventually freaking come to an end, or they'll change their ways. You don't need to have freaking organizations like the FCC and things of that nature. It's time for people to start taking back their freaking freedoms and their rights. And one way of doing that is take responsibility for your own actions and what you want in your life, and stop trying to depend on the government to do it for you. I've said it on your show before, Naroki, about when here in the town I'm in, my grandparents were here, and when I was younger. And I'm not lying about this, but like when I say this, but back in the day, man, when I was like 5 or 6 years old, you were driving down freaking one of these roads faster than freaking the speed limit allowed, which it was usually about 20 miles an hour. If you were speeding down that road and freaking somebody saw you, they would freaking pick up a handful of gravel, dude, and throw it at your car and hit your car, dude. Freaking, and you know what? You'd be an idiot if you freaking stopped and freaking wanted to start talking shit. And that was the way people took care of things, because if you did pull over, you're going to get your ass whooped, because freaking you didn't go speeding down the freaking road in this town back then, because freaking there's kids playing out in the streets, and we freaking didn't freaking approve of that shit. Now people can do it all the time. They get away with that shit. And it's because the community doesn't freaking stand up for freaking what's right. Okay. You need to freaking start thinking on those terms again and stop freaking trying to freaking say, oh, that's inappropriate. These people have that car and insurance and everything. No, these people are jackasses who think it's okay to speed down a freaking 2-lane road freaking 5 times the freaking speed limit that they're allowed to speed. Fuck their insurance. And if they pull over and they have a problem with you doing what you just did, whoop their ass and freaking make them go home with a busted lip. That's how you take care of it. Stop playing these games. That's all I got to say about it.
Yeah, it's yeah. Well, I mean, again, right? I'm not going to get too much into it, but I mean, again, right? BlackRock and Larry Fink are very, very clearly going to be like karma is going to come knocking for Larry Fink and BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard at some point, because it's like all of these companies, and Rierson was really good at finding these links, was really good at finding out how much of these companies was owned by somebody. And like BlackRock or State Street or Vanguard just consistently appeared. Mm-hmm. Right? And also, by the way, and again, right, regardless of what you say about Trump, yeah, USAID was a money laundering operation. It was very clear that they were funding a whole bunch of stuff, including, by the way, I've got some rather strong suspicions about the Daily Wire, and I'm not going to get too much into that, but it was the coincidence or no, right? Daily Wire suddenly found themselves in financial trouble the moment the USAID got shut down. That's one of those things that makes you go, right? But with that, let's move on to the next topic here. Okay.
Before you say anything, that BlackRock thing, just so you know, man, I've just done a few video episodes about BlackRock, and like a lot of people aren't aware of how freaking horrible this company is. Like, do you know anything about wetware?
A little. Bring us up to speed, but don't take too long because we're well over 2 hours now.
I'm not going to do all that, but it's called biological intelligence. They're using neurons to in the place of computer chips. Actual neurons that come out of freaking animals. They're able to freaking program them like a CPU. It's pretty evil shit, dude.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna put again. But last thing I'm gonna say before we move on to the next topic here, because we're well over 2 hours now. Warhammer 40K had, and I'm because this is a genre that I'm familiar with. And Warhammer 40K actually had a crisis because humanity was at its peak, and what happened? The reason why humanity was at its peak is because they had AI running a lot of their systems, and when that AI rebelled, probably at the behest of chaos, a huge war broke out. And like all of the alien species basically had to gang up on the human AI to eliminate it. And because of that now, the way, and this is both also, by the way, what happened in Dune, they replaced the AI with these genetically modified humans that basically perform the same functions as computers, except they do it organically. Right? So you have huge, like you basically have what you call, I can't remember what they call automatons or constructs. They have a whole system on Mars that takes human prisoners and turns them into these organic automatons that do everything from managed office tasks to actually going out and fighting wars. And they're basically humans that have been mind wiped and reprogrammed to do it. Right? So it's like, yeah, this is not a stretch at all. And anyway, let's just move on to the next topic. So we still got a couple more, although this next one, hopefully we won't go too long on it. Because, I mean, I have a goddamn feeling that P. Diddy, yeah, let's try to keep the P. Diddy stuff, because I did an entire episode on P. Diddy.
I just want to know.
And you had your chance, man. You had your chance to jump in.
I just want to know one thing. What is this freaking what I said it before the show, is that something glide?
What glide?
It's you had the baby oil, and then you had
that stuff. Okay. Like, yeah. You had your chance to jump in on the P. Diddy episode and you couldn't make it, so.
Well, I mean, y'all, you just wanted to rub that in, dude. You were all talking like, yeah, we're going to give you some time to talk about it. You just wanted to rub that in. I missed P. Diddy. Astroglide. What the hell is Astroglide?
Okay, well, we're not on that topic right now. We are on, all right, the shutdown. Again, right, it's like you've covered this stuff with Trump before. Mm-hmm. The Democrats came up with what they thought was a really brilliant solution. Oh, well, we'll just shut down the government. Well, here's the thing, right? They inadvertently created an opening for the Trump administration, and they are actually using it to shut down even more departments that the Democrats had. And again, a lot of it was money-wasting stuff, right? To shut down even more departments that they had before, because, you know, he couldn't do it before because these departments were operating, but they were operating at behest of the legislative branch, right? Now that the legislative branch has decided to abdicate their powers and go on a financial strike over the budget, Trump gets to decide which departments stay open and which ones don't. So he's basically gone in and, you know, he's basically taken a sword to a whole bunch of other Democrat pet projects and shut them down as well. So the whole thing ended up backfiring on the Democrats. Again, right, like you've covered the whole thing about, like, again, right, Trump, and I'm leaning that way myself. Trump is part of the Pax Americana faction of the U.S. government, so this is not just some random thing, right? But I mean, that being said, though, there's a lot of useless projects being financed that were not just as a result of the USA, but being financed from other groups inside the government as well, that Trump couldn't shut down because of what was going on, but now he can, and he is. And yep, surprise, surprise, be careful again, there's always a yin and a yang to everything, right? Like sometimes scoring political points to hurt Trump might end up backfiring on you, and that is exactly what happened with this government-mandated shutdown, which, by the way, as of right now, is currently still in place. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roger.
My friend Tan asked me, has it affected us or me in any way since all of this has happened? And I never got back to him on that. But the answer to that is no. It has absolutely done no harm to me, anybody around me. And as far as I know, state and federal officials are still getting paid, and they are still able to go back and forth to work, even though the government is shut down. Now, these government shutdowns, I think, is the new strategy for these political parties, basically. And we've had a few of them happen. They don't only just happen with, like, these Democrats, but like the conservatives do it too. They've done it a couple times. I think that's basically all that it's turned into. It's pretty much a big show. Now I've also got this conspiracy mind going on, if you haven't ever noticed, but to be honest with you, I stick with what I've said to you before. I honestly think that here in the end, there's going to be an end to the federal government. I'm pretty sure they know that it's on its way and that there's no real need for a federal government. They're downsizing, basically. If you take a look at a lot of the stuff that's been going on, and you look at Donald Trump, for example, okay, Donald Trump, the one thing that really sticks out to me about him is he seems to be around whenever freaking somebody has to do something that nobody else freaking wants to do. You know what I mean? Like all the shit that's going on right now that Donald Trump is doing, you never catch a freaking Democrat doing it. You know what I mean? It's just like all the crap that freaking Biden did. You never catch a conservative do that, doing that shit. So what they do is they navigate and they decide who's going to be put in office so that they can get these agendas done. Like whenever it comes to making it to where they can make the government smaller, they can freaking also put unpopular freaking laws into place or do unpopular things in government. They send people like Donald Trump in there to do it. You know what I mean? I used to not believe that back in the day when they used to say that shit about Ronald Reagan and George Bush Sr. But now that I'm getting older and I'm seeing a lot of this shit, a lot of it makes sense. I think the only president that probably screwed up and wasn't able to fulfill what his handlers wanted him to do was Clinton. And the only reason why Clinton messed up was because he, decided he was going to mess around with that cigar. He got impeached. But I believe he had a handler too. Just like a lot of people a lot of people think that Obama was the guy behind the scenes. But in my opinion, I really think that it was actually Biden who was the one calling all the shots in the background until he became president, and then he became senile, which that, to me, I also think was kind of staged too. He needed a way out, and he knew freaking that there was a lot of shit going on in his personal life, especially with his son who was on his way to prison. So that right there was even suspicious to me too. But I really don't believe that any of this stuff is on accident. I think Donald Trump's doing exactly what he was told to do by his handlers. Who those are, I don't know. I'm not one of those people who like to accuse everything on those evil freaking dastardly Jews that are sitting over in Israel. I don't believe in that shit either.
I don't think it's just the Jews, though. I mean, there are some Jews involved, but it's like, like the Jew behind every blade of grass, which is the issue which is the issue I have with Nick Fuentes, for instance. It's like the Jew behind, I hate to say it, Jaffe also tends to go there as well. The Jew behind every blade of grass, it's like, no, it's not just the Jews.
Like there's this horrible cabal of Jewish people that are just overlords of the freaking world, you know what I mean? Like the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds they freaking signed a paper, gave Israel over to the Jews. Okay. What the fuck ever, dude. Okay. They took their money and they built a courthouse in Israel. Okay. That doesn't mean that they ruled the freaking world, dude. You know what I'm saying? the Warburgs were freaking richer than the Rothschilds were, and nobody talks about the Warburgs. Nobody. They literally founded the Federal Reserve.
Oh, they don't. They also don't talk about. They also don't talk about the Vatican Bank, right?
Yeah.
Like, not a whole lot of Jews in the Vatican Bank.
Well, they're the bankers. Haven't you heard? Just saying, dude. You know, they're the bankers. That's the conspiracy, you know. But I don't.
Oh yeah, and let's not also forget the Far East. Not a whole lot of Jews operating banks in China and Japan and India, right? It's like, or Brazil. Well, maybe a little bit more in Brazil. But it's sort of like, it's sort of like it falls apart the moment you step back, and it's like you explain this to these people. It's like, let me. And we're kind of getting off on a bit of a tangent here. So let me see if I understand.
Kind of not.
Well, let me just it's sort of like, so you let me guess here. So Avi Yemeni flew from Australia to Britain, from Australia to the United States to do interviews on conservative YouTube on conservative podcasts to throw everybody off the Jewish question. Laura Loomer lost everything, right? At one point, she was deplatformed off of everything, and she did that. She went into the YouTube, and they threw a scene in the lobby of YouTube to throw everybody off the Jewish question, right? Mm-hmm. Like Sargon of Akkad risked death, dealt with death threats. And I mean, I could go on. There's lots of people that like, in order to throw people off the Jewish question. It's sort of like, no, sorry. Oh, here's one. This one specifically applies to me, right? Mm-hmm. That MGTOW and feminism are somehow a gay Jewish fucking plot, and it's sort of like, okay,
that I can believe that.
Dude. Like, I know for a fact I have actually spoken to the guys who.
No, say that again. I want to hear that.
MGTOW is a gay Jewish plot.
Oh, fuck.
No word of a lie. And it's like, dude, like, I have spoken to half of the people who met in Asheville, North Carolina a few months after the Duke Lacrosse situation. There were no Jews at that meeting.
The gay people?
There are no gays either. Right, okay. Like when the idea. Sorry, this is kind of there were no gays, there were no Jews at the meeting where the concept of MGTOW was first drawn up. They weren't there, and it's like, I bring this up to. It's like, is there going to be any gay Jews in this gay Jewish conspiracy that you keep talking about when it comes to MGTOW? Because I'm looking, right. Like, I know for a fact. Like, for instance, Hammerhand is like one of those almost. I'm not going to say he's like totally a Jew behind every blade of grass, but I've listened to enough of his shit enough of his content for me to realize it's sort of like, I'm going to have to take everything, like a lot of the commentary that Hammerhand says. I have to take it with a grain of salt now, because he gets into that a lot, right? It's like, Hammerhand. So Hammerhand talks about the Jewish question, but he's a Jewish fucking plant, right? It's sort of like, explain, make that make fucking sense to me. And he's not the only guy in MGTOW who's like that, by the way. That's like, make it make fucking sense, right? The same thing with the whole idea of feminism. Yeah, there was a guy called Polite Leader, or whatever. I can't remember his name, because I actually shared his content here, and he talked about the women who organized the original feminist movement back in the 19th century. And I think you will find this very, very curious, and we are definitely going off on a tangent here. Yeah, we're definitely going off on. We're definitely going off on.
How many tangents? Here. How many tangents have we had tonight? Like 3 or 4.
This is the 3. This is the third one, I think. I had one. You had one. This is my second one.
Well, no,
Okay, so yeah, then this is the 4th one. Then I mean, all of like literally every single prominent feminist in the early foundation of feminism came from broken homes, or was sexually abused, or had serious mental issues, right? For instance, one of the most famous scenes that comes up around feminism is that woman that chose to run out onto the horse track and get trampled by those horses as a form of protest, right? Turns out that she had a long history. Like, she was basically on the verge of being sent to a psych ward and permanently being housed there because of her mental condition before she even rolled out onto the horse track. And that is portrayed as a heroic protest by feminism. And that woman was extremely mentally disturbed. Like, extremely, right? So it's like, you start talking about conspiracies and everything else like that. It's sort of like, yeah, you know what? So, but I mean, yeah, there were some feminists involved in the origins of feminism, but they weren't the only ones in on it, right? The presence of a single solitary Jew in a group.
Carrie Nation? You've heard of Carrie Nation, haven't you? She was a temperance activist. She used to go in with a hatchet and smash saloons up, dude.
I don't want to get too much into conspiracy here, but I mean, you want to know what was really curious about that temperance movement is that Thomas I can't forget who the hell it was. Oh no, it was the Rockefellers. Yeah. The Rockefellers gave that temperance movement the equivalent of about $1 billion in today's money to engage in that. The reason why that took place is because back at that point in time, there was a conflict between whether cars were going to run on alcohol engines or gas engines.
Mm-hmm.
So Rockefeller gave all that money to the feminist movement to ban alcohol, which basically meant that they couldn't use alcohol engines in the vehicles because alcohol was now illegal. So follow the goddamn money, folks. Anyway, unless we have anything more to say, we're going to move on to the last topic because I know that, please try to keep the rant under 15 minutes. Okay?
Hey man, I actually was the one that point out that I had 2 of them. So I'm doing a good job. I'm being honest here.
Yeah, well, this is my second one here as well. All right. So anyway, let's move on to the last topic of the night, which is, of course, P. Diddy. I have to do a couple of videos here. I showed them on the P. Diddy platform.
Hold on. I did pull up some good information. This is very educational. Okay. Now, I asked if Astroglide was safe for females, and it said yes. Astroglide is generally safe for women, especially the water-based versions, as long as it is used as directed and you stop using it if you experience irritation.
Okay, that's good. I got a couple videos I got to run here.
Okay.
Let's get these videos out of the way first before we do anything else.
Okay.
Allegations of abuse against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. The video, captured on multiple cameras, shows Combs assaulting his then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura in a hallway at a Los Angeles hotel in March 2016. A lawsuit filed by Ventura in November last year and settled the next day referenced actions that seem to match those seen in this video. There is no audio. According to the complaint, Combs became extremely intoxicated and punched Miss Ventura in the face, giving her a black eye, which, according to the lawsuit, prompted Ventura to try and leave the hotel room. The surveillance video obtained by CNN begins as she enters the hallway. The complaint says as she exited, Mr. Combs awoke and began screaming at Miss Ventura. He followed her into the hallway of the hotel while yelling at her. The complaint goes on to say he grabbed her and then took glass vases in the hallway and threw them at her. In the surveillance video, Combs can be seen grabbing Ventura and throwing her to the ground. As Ventura lies on the ground, Combs then kicks her twice and attempts to drag her on the floor back to the hotel room. Ventura is seen picking up a hotel phone. Combs seems to walk back to the hotel room, then returns and appears to shove her in a corner. Moments later, he can be seen throwing an object in her direction. According to Ventura's now settled lawsuit, the pair began dating several years after they met in 2005. They parted ways in 2019. Combs' attorney said the decision to settle was in no way an admission of wrongdoing. Ventura declined to comment on the video, but her attorney told CNN the gut-wrenching video has only
We now have a moment of silence.
Hi, my name is Josh Colesrud. P. Diddy was just sentenced to 4 years and 2 months. But how long is he really going to spend in prison? Well, let me tell you, he qualifies for the First Step Act, which means that he only has to serve 50% of his time. He also qualifies for the RDAP program, or the Residential Drug Treatment Program. And once you successfully complete that prison 500-hour program, you get 1 year knocked off your sentence. And he also has over a year of in-custody credit. So how much time is he really looking at? Well, by my calculations, just a bit over 9.5 months, which means that he could be released as early as July of next year.
It's even less than that. 10% is the only requirement, because he would have to be on parole, but he would only have to serve 10% of his time, with the rest of it being parole.
Yep. So anyway, the whole thing with this is the fact that, this appears to have been, and this was speculated at one point, that it was going to be kind of like a middling sentence, right? They had to send him to jail for the optics, but they didn't necessarily, because it almost looked like the prosecution was trying to botch the prosecution on purpose in this particular situation. And again, I covered all of this and by the way, I covered all of this in 462, so I'm not going to get into it in depth here, right? It looks like it was just basically a middling sentence for the optics of it. And again, right, I was never really a fan of Diddy. I didn't think he was that great of a musician. I definitely did not think he was that great of a person. The fact of the matter was that the fact that he even hooked up with Jennifer Lopez, by the way, Jennifer Lopez, probably one of the most narcissistic, self-absorbed. Again, right, this is just my opinion on singers and entertainers. Everyone talks about how bad actors are. I will tell you straight up from general experience, the most narcissistic, the most self-absorbed, the most aggrandizing, egotistical, out of touch crowd that I have ever, group of artists that I have ever come into, have been the singers, have been the musicians, right? Especially the ones that are really hyped up in terms of corporatization, right? And it's kind of actually frightening when you think about it, right? Because it's, you're looking at probably, Jennifer Lopez probably knew what was going on, but they're not going to talk about this stuff, right? They had to send him away for the optics, but he's going to be, his career is effectively over. This is, you gotta go. Don't think I'm really going out on a limb here and saying that when he gets out of prison, he's going to immediately get on a plane and fly to a country that doesn't have an extradition treaty, and they won't be, he'll basically pull a Michael Jackson, right? And, you know, it's, yeah, I mean, it's but here's the thing, right? And this is something, because I was not really particularly impressed with Suge Knight when I first heard about him, but it's like looking at how Suge acted, and Suge was a straight up thug, right? But if I had to choose between a straight up thug and P. Diddy, I would go with the thug, right? But I mean, I would have hated to have been involved, be a rap musician in the LA area, and have to deal with this crowd. And I picked between P. Diddy and Suge Knight if I was like some type of a rap artist living in the LA area back in the 90s. Right, and of course, right, we've also got the whole thing with Tupac Shakur, which I'm not going to get into here. But I mean, right? Yeah, they sentenced him. Yeah, his career is effectively over. But I mean, the sentence was kind of almost like a wrist slap, for lack of a better term. And again, right, I'm not, like I said, I did a whole show on it. So if you want to see what my full take on it was, go to 462 and listen to 462, right? I'm just going to gloss over it here. And, yeah, okay, God damn it, man, amazing. Well, we had 7 topics, so maybe it's not so surprising. We're almost at 3 hours here. I've really talked myself out when it comes to P. Diddy. I was glad to get the P. Diddy episode over with. V wanted to do the P. Diddy episode so badly, though.
Yeah.
God damn, did he want to do that episode? Like, it really, really badly. So I did it. Roger, take the show out, do the comment on P. Diddy, then we're going to have to call it a night.
Okay. Well, with P. Diddy, the Astral Glide wasn't the thing that I was really curious, but I did solve the whole thing about the baby oil, though I found out that was actually just a misunderstanding. The whole thing about having a receipt for the baby oil was not true. What happened is they were talking about freaking the baby oil and it coming from what was it? It was the store. It was Walmart, I think it was, or some place like that. And then come to find out that they never sold it there. And there was a mess up on that because it was brought up by P. Diddy's freaking attorney on a freaking commercial, which this guy was just a major idiot. Okay, and he just said, well, if he wanted to go down and get all this from so-and-so, then fine, will be it. Well, all of a sudden it got turned into he went down and bought all this baby oil from, I think it was TJ Maxx, actually. Or, yeah, it was there. But anyhow, they found out that the baby oil was never sold there. So that was just a mess up, a screw up. So I found that out. And other than that, the one thing that really sticks out to me is this whole time served thing. Now, the whole thing is like what that guy was saying right there. It does make sense if you freaking aren't taking parole into consideration. Like, first of all, in federal prisons especially, you're eligible for parole after a certain portion of the sentence is served. And usually it's a third of the sentence. Usually it is. But then what happens is you've also, besides becoming eligible for parole, you also have what they call good behavior credits, basically, that are applied for good behavior inside of these systems. A lot of them will give like 54 days out of the year for every year that you're in prison. So first, you're eligible for parole. I think you have to serve 20 to 30% of the time before you're eligible for parole. And then a lot of these places will take in the freaking good behavior credits into consideration, and that'll reduce it as well. So basically, he's got 4.5 years that he's in prison. He's got to freaking serve at least 1 year of that freaking time. And if he...
Yeah, but he's also had time served in prison already, though.
Right. That's true. So I would bet it was 5 years sentence, and then he had served maybe 6 months, you'd say? Time served?
9 months is what they said, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah. And that would be applied towards his sentence. So all he has to do is basically freaking wait 3 months, and he'll be eligible for freaking parole. And at that point, he can get out in 3 months freaking with no problem. You know what I mean? As long as he's on good behavior and he doesn't mess up. That's my prediction. He'll have 3 to 6 months, and he'll be out and on the streets. So,
well, I was going to throw in something else here, because I actually found out about it here yesterday. I think it's Neil. Let me just take a look here, because I'm just going to take a look quickly on YouTube here before I. There was an individual. I'm trying. I mean, I have to actually go into my history here to find it. Let me just see here. Oh yeah, Ian Watkins, another really creepy musician. He got murdered violently in prison here, and he was that pedo singer that was like using his fame to attract to get access to other people's kids. Yeah, he was killed rather violently here this week. But I mean, he was sentenced to like 30 plus years in prison. So it's not the same thing that happened to P. Diddy by any stretch of the imagination.
No, when you said that freaking you think that they messed up the case on purpose, I get the same vibe about that too, and it goes back even to Epstein. And I've mentioned it on your show too. It's like whenever you freaking are charging somebody, you need to charge them with the actual crime. Okay, don't try to make them a freaking example. Like Epstein, they could have had Epstein if they would have actually charged him with soliciting a minor for prostitution. But no, what did they want to get him for? Child sex ring or some shit. It was the wrong charge for the wrong crime. And they did the same thing with P. Diddy, and I said that back when we were all talking about it. I was like, freaking, I was the one who said he was going to get off on the charges because they're freaking coming at him wrong. You know what I mean? Like these charges, that they had absolutely nothing to do with sex trafficking at all. You know? They had to do with him freaking soliciting minors and shit, and having sex with freaking underage girls, I believe, that were prostitutes. You know, none of this had anything to do with sex trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up having to go in and check all that shit out and found all that out on my own. Freaking not one time did the freaking media point that out. None of that had to do with freaking anything to do with sex trafficking. It had to do with him soliciting sex from minors. the girls that freaking testified against him were all freaking underage. They were there voluntarily having sex with him because they were prostituting themselves out, which is illegal too. But if they would have charged them with them charges, then freaking they would have gotten them. But they freaking chose to go for the sex trafficking. And that's what California is infamous for doing. And they screw it up every fucking time. You know, if this is the crime, this is what you need to charge them with. Period. Don't try to freaking set an example. Well, we're gonna push our freaking political agenda of sex trafficking on a high profile freaking court case, and this is going to be seen and heard all over the country, and we're going to get recognition because we're California and we're tired of it, you know. And they know from the get-go that they're going to lose that case because they charged him with the wrong crime. That's what pisses me off the worst. He should have been charged with freaking killing freaking Tupac. What's up? I said it. I ain't afraid to say it. He murdered Tupac, or he had something to do with it. I don't give a shit what freaking Angel says.
Oh, by the way, let me just wish Angel a fast and speedy recovery with his medical situation.
Same here.
Yeah, my Angel, get well soon. I mean, yeah, all right. I think you're a little irritating sometimes, and Roger and Roger and Angel definitely disagreed on a few things, but
cats and dogs.
But yeah. Do you have anything else to add here, or can we? Because effectively, I mean, like
just
I say,
one thing I gotta say is freaking when it comes to freaking Angel, tell Angel that he needs to get back on and freaking let everybody know what happens if he's listening to this. Let everybody knows if he's okay, because he's in the hospital right now, and he needs support. If anybody knows him, reach out to him and give him your well wishes. What do they call that? Well wishing or some shit.
Well wishes.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's all I gotta say.
Yep. So that concludes the show tonight. Yeah, we went over 3 hours, which was, well, to be honest, we had some fairly heavy topics to cover tonight. I will say this about the next show: the topics are going to be a little bit not quite so heavy. But I want to thank everybody who we actually hit double digits for a couple of times tonight, which is not bad considering that we do this kind of like almost on I tend to do these shows kind of almost on the fly to a certain extent. I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. Yeah, we will, like I said, I don't know. I'm going to leave. Probably we'll be doing 464, but it might not be for a full 7 or 8 days before I get around to doing it. I might even choose to pass. I don't do that very often, but I have to give myself the luxury of doing it this time, because I will tell you, this week, these last 2 weeks have just been an absolute clusterfuck. I'm amazed that I got out the kind of production that I was able to get out over the past couple of weeks, to be straight up honest with you. But anyway, thank all of you for listening. And I'm trying to remember what exactly what is it we were supposed to be talking about after the show?
I don't even know. I'm so freaking out of it. The only thing I
can't remember. We were going to be talking about something or other, but we can't remember. We'll probably remember about an hour after the show's over.
Just go to bed, man. Get some sleep.
Well, here was the thing, right? I did get back home, and I did get to sleep, and then some fucking crazy fucking old woman knocks on my door 3 hours in. Oh, I'm having a problem with my plumbing, and it's like, I work nights.
Yeah.
You know, so I went over and I dealt with the issue, and it was like by the time I'd gotten back to my room, I was no longer tired.
It's time to get tired and get you some sleep because you got work to do tomorrow. So
I work at I'm not going to be at work till like 7 p.m. So I got plenty of time to get some sleep tonight. But it's like, yeah. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. I don't know the exact date. I mean, it could be. I could potentially do it on the night of the 16th, but more than likely, I'm probably not going to be able to touch it until the 21st, right? Or I might just choose to pass on it altogether just because of what's been going on this week. It's just been a total clusterfuck. And it's, my personal vehicle has been a source of a lot of aggravation for me. It's a catch-22 because I actually need it for what I'm doing for work. But anyway, that is it for tonight. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, everybody. And I'd like to thank the fact that we actually got a fair number of people listening tonight. What are we at here? We are at, again, I got a whole 2 subs, two listeners on Kick. I was up to as much as 3 on Twitch, and we actually almost hit, we actually had 10 at one point, I think, on Rumble. So the numbers are growing, albeit very slowly. And hopefully once things kind of clear up for me, I'll be able to have a little bit more of a regular schedule. But yeah, it's going to be rather inconsistent, at least for the next little while. I know I'm an atheist. Thoughts and prayers for the Jackal's Head, Angel Espino, and that I will end the show with his image there. That's it. Have a good night, folks.
Talk to you later.